Nick, thank you for coming on, bro. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited, dude. This is I think you were the first person when I was planning on coming to Austin that like I saw on Twitter that was in Austin or something like that. And I hit you up. I think we went like 2 or 3 months without communicating, and then I came to Austin, and then we ended up linking and kind of hit it off. We've hung out a handful of times since, and it's been a good time, dude. You and your brother are an absolute trip.
Yeah, I know. I forgot our structured water vortex with the neodymium magnets today, but that'll have to be for podcast number 2.
Which there will be.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I guess, are you going to be anon? Like, I want to clarify.
I don't know. Maybe I'll do a poll, see what the people want. But
because I mean, I don't want to like expose too much about you or your life if that's the case, but
I think that do as you please, good sir. Like, I'm going to at least reveal my face because I do think that the creator economy is moving in that direction regardless, and I might as well just like, I have stayed anonymous for multiple reasons. The 2 most prominent reasons are I would like to be hired by certain companies in the future potentially, and B, I don't want the CIA to see my sketchy tinfoil hat tweets that completely undermine their
plan.
Yeah. But
do you think they don't have access to you already? I feel like they already know.
So, going reverse, point B, they already know who I am. Like, if they wanted to find out, they could.
You're on the radar.
I'm for sure on the radar.
100%.
And, there's 100% moles in our space online. Like, this is where the seeds of revolution get planted, is where we are.
Like, if Paul Revere had access to Twitter, he'd be on it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep. The base bras are coming. And so point B is pretty much irrelevant. If they want to drone strike me, they can. And then point A is, I think if any company doesn't want to hire me because of the stuff that I'm tweeting, then I probably don't want to work for them anyways. Maybe that's not completely, true, though. There are companies out there that I would like to work for that you just do have to live up to a certain standard. But at this point in my life, I just don't see the harm in, I'm not going to give out my social security number. I'm not going to give out my full name, but like, yeah, my name is Nick. My alias is Base Raw. And this is what I am. And I think that people do resonate with the face more. I did start the Twitter thing because I didn't have to show my face, though. Like, I had done a TikTok thing with a similar message that Base Bra is now, but I just hated it because it's like you got to do all these stupid fucking sound effects and flashing colors and like trends and hashtags and all this stuff, and you got to catch their attention right away. And that's why I love Twitter, is like you get people's attention through the written word and your ideas and your ability to explain ideas in a way that the reader wasn't yet understanding of, but then when they read it, they're like, oh man, I totally resonate with that. Like, that hit my core. Like, that's the meat of it all. That's what,
And then, like, to even further that, the way you grow on Twitter is by the ideas and the word being so captivating and so enticing or so relatable or insightful that they feel inclined to even engage with it. So it's one thing on, like, I mean, I don't even really like pictures on Instagram very often anymore, And I actually was talking to somebody recently about, like, I consume more stories than I do posts, for sure.
Yep.
And so when your post on Twitter, which, like you said, is written word, so somebody has to read it. It's not just like visual, all this, like you said, like the 150 cuts in in a 30-second video with 15 different pop-ups and click noises and stuff. And there's a place for that, I guess. But Twitter is kind of just like the brass tacks of what your ideas are, how you're articulating yourself and your thoughts. And there's definitely something gratifying about growing. I say that as somebody who's like not big on Twitter, but like there's something gratifying about
Not yet.
expressing thoughts. Yeah, maybe some point. But the comment about companies, my mom always used to say something about like tattoos. She comes from a corporate world and has done very well there, but it's just a different time. Like she would always say like the idea of like somebody might see that and not want to hire you. And since I was like in high school, I was like, well, if somebody doesn't want to hire me because I get a tattoo on my skin, unless it's like a swastika,
Yeah.
then like I don't really want to work for them. So it's kind of the same type deal. Like if your idea, if a company doesn't align with your ideas or the fact that you like put yourself out there, then perhaps that's not the company for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I can only make the decision with so much, like I can only garner so much information to make the decision. Like at a certain point, you either jump off the fucking cliff or you don't. And the way that I've built up the account is it's at a point now that I actually, like I could replace my income if I so chose to do, like to abandon the companies I'm working for, and go full in on, because I have a ton of inbound for the coaching program. There's a couple products that are about to be launched. I'm very confident that if this was the route I wanted to go, I could do it, and remaining anonymous is not vital to that.
It's not even conducive. It's like, it's almost not conducive, but there is an element of like, hey, if I'm going to be paying you as a coach, like I want to know, at least for me, like if I was going to be paying somebody money, like real money to be coaching me, it's like, I think about baseball. Like would I take baseball? Yeah. Would I take baseball advice when I was in high school or college from a dude that like wouldn't show me his face or like, probably not. So there's definitely merit to that.
That's why it's like, no one's coming to me with their money in hand. They're coming to me and signing up for the free call, or we're doing voice memos back and forth or DMing each other. I build that relationship with people, and the purpose is like at this juncture, I don't need their money. The whole page is an act of service, the way that I see it. Like whatever's in my brain could potentially click with someone in a way that it wouldn't click with them from some other, thought leader or whatever. Like I said this the other day on a podcast, but like you could go to a monastery and study for 10 years under some sages, and you'd make 10 years of progress. But I also think that you could make 3 years of progress with someone saying something in a very particular way that just clicks with you and you immediately understand it. I've had so many coaches in my life. I'm like literally shivering in this chair right now because my bathing suit is wet. So many coaches in my life, and I had 7 coaches over the course of 13 years of ski racing, and
which I want to get into in a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes a coach said a certain like technical thing in a certain way, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to do this for 5 years, and now it's done because of how you said it. And that's why I think the creator economy is huge, and like each person has a certain perspective and a certain delivery that is going to resonate with people in a particular way. We're all very intricate in the way that we respond and resonate with things. So putting your unique perspective out there is an act of service. And I think that's the direction. And, showing my face is only going to gain more rapport with people and just kind of give them that trust off the bat, because I think there was an era where anon accounts were, not really looked down upon. And I think that's changing a bit, because Well, I think that X is going to be rewarding real people. You see it with them asking for your ID and making it they want to verify that you're not a bot.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think that, like, you know what, actually your personal brand is really powerful, and I might as well make it my personal brand because I've seen the upside, which is like meeting people like you, meeting people in all walks of life and sects of business, and it's just too powerful to ignore and to stay sort of, schizo posting anon account. So that's where I'm at with it. So
there's definitely merit. I was speaking with this to Harry and Brett, who because they were anonymous at first, and they kind of doxed themselves and came out of the anon closet as well. And it was like a launch pad when they doxed themselves, because they just, like, their network, their community, their business just boomed. Their podcast boomed, because there is a ceiling, in my opinion, when you're anonymous, for the exact reasons we've been talking about. Like, there's just not that, there's like something there. It's like, okay, I don't know everything. Carnivore Aurelius is a good example. And the information that page posts is actually pretty good. I align with a lot of it. But that, just to me personally, the idea that I've like never seen anything close to what this person looks like, what their physique looks like, or anything like that. I don't know a name. There's just something missing where I take that with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if somebody like a Gary Brecker, or like a Huberman, or anybody who's like out there actually putting themselves out there, it's personified, which makes it more digestible to me. I don't know if I don't think I'm alone in that. So I think there's merit to that. The other thing that an anonymous allows you to do, it does allow you to grow quicker, I think, at least at the jump, because there's like almost a mystique about it, which is interesting or appealing in some way. But I'm curious, why'd you get started on Twitter? Like, what was the impetus for you to start sharing your ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I had seen, those anonymous accounts on Twitter, and I knew that I have so much knowledge from being a full-time athlete for more than half of my life, and then a 3-time business owner, founder in the health and wellness space, in the athlete space. And I just felt that I had a unique perspective that, really it started off as just sort of a self-reflective thing. I'd post thoughts my own, or just wanted to sort of start taking notes on the machinations of the mind. And then people started resonating with it, and I started taking it more seriously. I had some cycles because the business that I'm working for, we've been fundraising, and I don't happen to know a bunch of oil and gas billionaire executives in my network. And so, we were on full fundraising mode, and I had some time on my hands, not a lot of time, but it takes 30 minutes to put out a good tweet, let's say, usually even less, especially in the beginning, like just shooting from the hip. And people started resonating, and I always had a message that I wanted to get out, and I was always coaching people. I was always helping people that had cancer, had an injury, or was an athlete but wasn't getting the results that they wanted, or, just general tenets of health and performance that I live by, because I've just always been obsessed with that. And it actually stems from a belief that I had. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. When you touch that, that's what. Interesting. Oh, yeah, it's on your end. When you hold that, then it stops. But anyways, I can talk if you're trying to figure that out.
And it's
silent.
Wait, what the fuck? That's actually weird. Okay, well, yeah, I'll just hold it then, because I don't want people to be like listening to that the whole
Yeah,
time.
that's annoying. We could pause it and maybe fix it and cut it out.
Very strange. Go ahead.
It's really just, for me, I also had this problem with believing in myself. And so I felt that, because I wasn't the talented athlete. I wasn't the prodigy growing up. I had to earn it. And hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And hard work beats talent when I supplement.
When pollen's involved.
When I incorporate breath work and sun and ice bathing and optimal stretching and injury prevention and diet and sleep, and everything is dialed to the nth degree, that's when I would beat the kids that were prodigies since they were 8 years old. And so I was always looking for that little advantage, as most athletes are. And I had just, I had this reservoir of knowledge, and it got to the point where, like, companies were wanting me to work for them when I was coming out of college that were in that space. But I had always had sort of a higher calling of protecting, conserving the natural world, the environment. That's a huge pull for me.
Well, you're from Colorado, but also just there's few sports that are as involved or a part of or revolve around the outdoors, specifically the mountain country, the beautiful, the pristine, unadulterated parts of the country in the world than skiing, specifically cross country skiing. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was always my church. The mountains were my cathedrals, and the woods were just my respite from the world. And I am the man I am today because of nature. I was grown up, with Mother Nature as our, penultimate exemplary God or manifestation of the divine. And I know that the more people that have the opportunity to get into nature, the better. And if you go into the woods for 8 hours, you're going to come out a different person. Strongly believe that. And I think that, it's a shame the damage that we do to the environment, but it's also a shame the climate alarmism movement that has been gaining momentum, and really climate change and climate alarmism is a religion now, and it's a
Being
religion.
weaponized.
Yeah, it's a religion that's anti-human and anti-impact, and I don't agree with that. I think that, the sentiment should be reversed. We're on the verge of sacrificing the poor for the planet, and that's why this startup I work for is very fulfilling, because we're doing damage control in the oil and gas industry, and that's going to be, it's one of the best things we can do. I mean, people talk ad nauseum about wind and solar and hydro and batteries and all that kind of stuff. I mean, unless people wrap their heads around nuclear, the climate goals that all of these companies are pledging to, 2050 is going to roll around and they're going to be, whoa, sorry.
2100. It's, in a different way. I didn't grow up in the mountains or in like the environment that you did. I mean, obviously you're in like you were born and raised in like the most pristine American country there is, or one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Atlanta, and I always viewed it as like, my dad, one of the things I'm most grateful for is he always made it a priority. I played baseball, so I was outside, but like he always made it a priority to go to the hunting lease, to go to the North Georgia mountains, to go to Bill Gearing's house, to go to, just to be outside. Like that was a priority for me. So it was always like the thing that I was excited to do. Cause it's like, oh wait, we get to go to the woods today. And it kind of stems to something you just said that I want to pick your brain about. Why do you think that somebody would leave the woods a different person if they spent 8 hours there, or 8 hours away in the woods?
Well, I think that the most potent effect is that you you become more connected to where you came from. And we're all super disconnected in this day and age with our, 4 inches of padding under our shoes, the concrete jungles we live in, the digital world that we are absorbed in. And if you strip all of that away and you go back to Mother Nature and you're based on the ground, that's, to me, based and grounded are synonyms. And
100%.
I think so. That was a part of the name being Based Raw, because the mission is get people back in nature, because it's healing. It's, it is healing on a physiological level to just be based on the earth, and grounded. And I also think that on a psychological level, I think beauty is a direct line to the divine, and the most beautiful things are found in nature, in my opinion. I mean, the design of the bark on a tree, the bird, singing next to you, the animals that will come by, and I mean, I think that it just humbles you, puts you back in your place, and you're just a part of this ecosystem, and it can strip away the ego. It can give you a broader perspective on what really matters. And so I would say that, it deconditions you. It takes you back to where you came from, and your body remembers that, your blood remembers that. And that's why I think it can be such a potent form of therapy and physical therapy too.
100%. There's a reason that everybody likes the beach, and there's the reason that everybody likes the national parks or a park in general, right? It's being in nature, and I love what you just said about the beauty, because my friend Noah Heisman, who I've had on the podcast, talks about the true, good, and beautiful. That's what he's after, like the true, the good, and the beautiful. And those 3 things are typically intertwined. Not even typically. They, like, what is true is good. What is good is beautiful. That's the reality of it. And those 3 things are, in my opinion, a direct, like, that's God. Like, that's in something that is true, good, and beautiful, you will find God 100% of the time. And a place like the woods, you go to the woods and just sit there. And like you said, look at a tree, look at a bird, look at it, watch a deer, just live. Don't, like, even when you're hunting, like I've one of my favorite things is, and now I'm just remembering, I was in Montana in September without an elk tag. I was actually fly fishing on I think it was the Bitterroot River, and we watched a herd of elk literally just sitting on a boat in the middle of the river. It was one of the most pristine things, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I had no intention of hunting them. We were literally just like observing nature happen. And it is therapeutic. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, honestly. I also think there's like the element of EMF exposure, and just like there's something about that really does disconnects us from the city, or like the part of the world that's so noisy in terms of like stimuli. You're like forced to get away from it. And I really do think that's a subconscious reason that people are so drawn to the beach and the national parks. Like I was just mentioning, they might not even know that that's why, but it literally just stimulates or destimulizes your mind, which I think is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, we're electromagnetic beings, and we live in a world where we're being bombarded by non-natural EMFs all day long. And if you go into nature, your body finds its equilibrium again. It was never designed to have this many EMFs, interfering with our own field. And that has detrimental effects on our mind, for sure. That's why I think a lot of people feel that's why a lot of like depression, anxiety, overthinking, overanalyzing, lack of confidence, the the volatility of your thoughts and the voice in your head are only accentuated and exaggerated by these EMFs, among other things. I mean, you can eat certain foods too that can upregulate your thinking in a way that's very similar to like ADHD. And when you go into nature, all of that stuff can get, just stripped away. Your body has like a breath of fresh air, literally and figuratively, to just reconnect and come back to center. And what you're saying about good and truth based, I think, is it moving in the direction of your truth. It's a very subjective term. People use it as a term of agreement online for a plethora of things. But to me, my own personal truth is Mother Nature. And only recently has then, God been a bigger part of that. And I'm assembling, a belief framework that jives with me and my value hierarchy. I don't subscribe to any religion fully at this juncture, but being in nature is the closest thing I can find to God. I mean, if you climb to the top of a mountain, you feel a very particular way. You feel closer to God, and you are also you're on the earth, and you're intimate with the earth, and you're at its mercy, and you're humbled. And I think that like surfers feel this when they're connected and surfing. Everyone has probably had a taste of this, where they're in nature, but they haven't fully wrapped their heads around like how much of a profound effect it really has on their mind and also their physical body. And like, I think that's another thing with my account and my coaching is like, actually nature is the most underrated doctor out there. People don't realize how potent its healing capacity is. Just grounding and sunshine and good water and good food and being in nature, replenishing the soul. The Japanese proverb Shinrin Yoku means forest bathing. And that's how I kind of view it. I go out in the woods and I'm bathed in this divine energy. And you can sit there and you can feel that like the plants and the trees around you are consciously aware of you. Like they're almost looking at you. They know you're there. The animals know you're there. And I've even, practiced this with what am I putting out into these woods right now? What's the energy I'm putting out? And with certain energies, with certain mindsets that I've been in the woods, I'll have birds like land near me and just kind of hang out. I'll have animals suddenly be like coming into the area because I think that they feel the energy is not hostile, which is a difficult paradox to live out when you're hunting.
I was just about to say it, and they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
They see you.
But I do think like I've literally stood like a statue before hunting, and it's a huge valley, and a bunch of elk came across into the valley that I was sitting in, and I was just sitting there like a statue. And they can only see in black and white, and they were probably 400 yards away, but they all walked around, and I was still as a statue, but they all stopped walking and looked directly at me. And I was just sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't make a noise.
Yeah.
The wind is in my favor, right? Like, how? And they just are so attuned to the environment and to the ecosystem that to a level that we don't understand. I think the closest thing is probably the people that like have grown up in the Amazon barefoot their entire lives, and there's stories of them being like, "Do you hear that?" And the white boy is like, "No, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "There's a jaguar like 500 yards away," and then lo and behold, there's a jaguar there, and it's so that. But that level of connection is really intriguing to me. It's something I want to tap into as much as I possibly can, because that's beautiful to me, and it's fulfilling, and I always feel better when I'm in nature. And that's, that was a reason why, although cross country skiing is physical torment, and it's cold and it's shitty, but it's also like you're in nature, and you're in nature with your friends. And yeah, some days it sucks, but a lot of the days, you're just suffused with beauty all around you, and it makes you feel very grateful. It makes you feel humble, and I think it's good for your brain, good for your body. And so my goal with Bass Bra is, more than anything, like if you're looking for answers, go into nature. If you're looking for answers in life, or what you want to do, or what you're passionate about, or what your destiny is, like that can all be revealed to you through the vehicle of nature and getting connected to it.
There's a quote, I think it was Emerson who said it, or maybe it's Eckhart Tolle, I don't know. Perhaps the truth revolves around a walk. Perhaps the truth depends on a walk around the lake, or something to that effect. And you're exactly right. Harry put me onto this sort of analogy that we were talking about the other day. We were talking about it in context of prayer or meditation. Prayer specifically, the goal of prayer is to sharpen the connection between you and God. So take that from that context and put it in nature. When you are in nature, your connection with God is more strong. It's sharper. And he referred to it as like think about a radio, like you're tuning the frequency. And when we're in these man-made environments, these cities, and it's interesting because I literally do mean like the EMFs, the frequencies of the places that we are when we're in cities. They cloud that, it's all static. It's the further you get away from that, the more you get into unadulterated, pristine, natural environments that starts to get clear, and there's silence. When there's silence, you can hear. When you can hear, you get answers. And so to me, I mean, I get like, not emotional. I literally have goosebumps thinking about some of the moments in my life where I'm in nature in Montana, or in Alaska, or even in rural Georgia, where I'm just like, holy shit. Like even at the top of Enchanted Rock the other day, bro, just the quietness. It's so quiet. And the thing is, that rock, or when you're hunting in that valley, those elk, the deer, the bear, they don't give a flying fuck about any of the things that you brought into the woods. Like the mental baggage, the things that you're thinking about with your job, with your relationships, with blah, blah, blah. They don't care. They're trying to survive. So when you implant yourself into an environment like that, I feel like that kind of rubs off on you. And when you're focused on only those things, then it's just this overwhelming sense of peace, at least in my experience, when I'm in those types of environments. I don't even know what we were talking about before we got onto the nature vibe, but I mean, it's powerful, dude. I think hunting particularly, I'm curious to hear, because you grew up hunting, right?
Yeah.
Like since you were a kid?
Yep.
What have you like learned about yourself or life in general from actually hunting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. Something that struck me with what you were just saying is in Hatchet by Gary Paulson, main character, there's a plane crash. He's stuck in the woods. He has to survive. All he has is a hatchet. And at some point in the story, he realizes like, this is the first time I've ever, it's been completely silent externally. And to me, I read that when I was 9, and that's something I've always been seeking out is not only external silence, but also internal silence. And you can cultivate that internal silence with meditation and doing a really hard workout. Your mind quiets down. Like there are ways to do that, but then also getting into nature and it just being completely silent, it makes the voice in your head much louder. And then you also take away that like static energy, the interference of other EMFs with your field, and you begin to think clearer, and you begin to have less erratic thoughts. And that has been the catalyst for a lot of self-development and realizations and epiphanies in my own life. Being in nature, you know, there's always something everyone always has something that's going on in their life that they aren't super happy with and want to be improved. And each time I go into the woods, I do sort of have a little bit of an intention. Like when I was younger, I had some realizations about my behavior as just an older brother. I've had realizations as my place as a son and how I treat my parents, and the sheer just preciousness of having loving parents. Like, I'm so blessed. And I stood in the woods hunting one day and just thought about, you know, my parents dying and them, you know, passing away. It's an inevitability, and it just became so real to me. And these thoughts can bring about the reality of your life in a way that's subtle. It lets these subtle realities blossom to the forefront of your mind to then allow you to sift through it all and be like, you know, am I going to break up with this girl or what?
Yeah. It puts the talk that's in your mind, like there's nowhere to go. Like,
yep.
Especially I think it's a great sin that I've committed, being in the woods and being on my phone or like trying to distract myself, because it takes away from what it actually can do. And I think you're exactly right, because when you're especially spot and stock, I mean, even in a tree deer blind or a tree stand, there's really only so much you can do. So you're sitting there, you're thinking, you have this thought come up, you're like, oh, it's like, it's going to keep coming smack to your face. But when you're in these environments like we're in right now, frankly, like you can, there's that other thing that needs to be done. There's this other thing that needs to be done. And then you can kind of neglect that thought. Whereas if you're hunting, like, good luck.
Yeah. And it's so easy to distract. Everyone is using their phones to distract themselves from something that is unpleasant to think about. And before it was the phone, it was the newspaper, it was the radio. Before that, it was, you know, then we get even to maybe more pure ways of dealing with the tribulations of life. But when you go into the woods or you go into the ocean, a lot of that stuff starts to strip away, and it becomes very clear what's important, what you care about, and how you're going to proceed in, you know, making your life better and making the lives of those around you better. And it brings you back to your nature, and a lot of our nature is based in love and based in compassion and kindness and goodness. And everyone is approaching their own version of truth, and that's very based. That's the whole based ethos really is. So, I mean, for some people, it's not going to be nature. It's going to be, you know, painting or something like that. That's their own personal truth. But if that is what allows you to strip away the bullshit and the scaffolding and the social conditioning and just enter into a state where you're embodying your true nature, then that's super based. And that's a place that will unlock higher levels of consciousness and frequency and vibration for you to then exude and provide your own unique gifts to the world to help elevate collective consciousness, which is what we should all strive to do to some extent.
There's a quote, to bring up Noah Heisman again. I'm reading his book right now, A History of the Hero, and he talks about a vital person vitalizes. So someone that is vital, and he talks about it in the context of a hero's journey, but like the hero, when they return from their hero's journey. Yeah, but Noah talks about the idea that like the vital person vitalizes. So, and there's another quote that he actually mentioned in this chapter, but I've referenced this quote for a long time. I think it's Howard Thurman, maybe, if that's a person. I think that's his name. He talks about, do not ask what the world needs of you. Or maybe it's it's along the lines of, do not do what the world needs of you, do what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is for more people to come alive for the exact same thing that you just said. Like for my energy and my cup to overflow, my cup must be full.
Mm-hmm.
And so it ties back to the vital person vitalizes. When that person that's painting is reaching their like pinnacle, they're reaching their true nature, they're exuding their best self. What that does to the people around them is it almost gives them permission, but also like enables that the people around them to take one step higher. And we were kind of talking about this just in terms of like living in a certain environment or like who you surround yourself with. It's the exact same way, dude. Like if I'm with a bunch of people, it's so cliche. Like the 5 people that you're around is like, I can show you who you are.
Yeah.
If you're around 5 people that are all trying to find that are trying to reach their true potential, trying to level up, trying to find the true good and beautiful in life, you almost have no choice. Like you almost don't. Like you almost have no choice but to do the same. And so I think it's important for people to, whatever they need to do, to, myself included, I'm kind of speaking to myself, to like find the time, the space, the detachment, the clarity to learn what does that for me. Like what is it that does that for me, so I can do that more, so then I can give more of myself to people, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, you said for some people it's not nature. I mean, I would argue, honestly, that I don't think there's a single person in the world that would not be better if they did not spend more time in nature.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, maybe some people spend all their time in nature, but you know what I mean? Like the general gist.
There's no substitute that has the same power as reconnecting with where you came from, in my opinion. But people resonate with different things, and people have their own different unique perspectives and journeys. And I think that, you know, you have to feed your soul and fill your cup up. The problem is a lot of people don't know what that is. And I think people are, looking externally way too much to, you know, some novel idea they might find doom scrolling Instagram or some number in a bank account. And it comes from within. And then I also think that you can feed your soul with certain things, and each person is going to be different, and their soul is going to be fed by different behaviors. And this is where I have a problem with these routine optimization productivity hackers online, because they make it so sterile, so mechanistic, that people then follow this ABCDE protocol for their days so that they can have energy and be productive and work with purpose, when I actually think that the opposite is more advantageous for people, where really be in tune with how a certain behavior makes you feel and what sort of energy it gives you that then you can carry throughout the day and throughout your life, to then have a full cup and have a flame eternally burning within you that grows and grows with each day, to then provide your gifts to the world. And for me, that's like really, really hard exercise in the morning, and then stilling the body completely and letting the mind still down as well. And those two things for me are what feed my soul and feed my true nature. You know, you can go into nature and get a taste of the meta of what all of this is, but to feed the flame within, I think a lot of people would be better off not following some protocol that is based in neuroscience as much as what gives you energy, because there are things that are parasites in energy, and then there are things that really feed you. And if painting for someone gives them energy, I mean, that's like Winston Churchill. I mean, I don't think Winston Churchill had a crazy fucking routine, but part of his routine was painting a lot. And whenever he was super stressed out or he needed to think through something or make a really big decision, as you know, they're getting attacked in World War II, he'd be like painting out by the lake. And routine optimization fanatics would scoff at that, but
and smoking like 25 cigars
Yeah, and drinking fucking scotch and like, I mean,
there's a quote. Once again, no Heisman, dude. This guy's he's absolute.
I'm gonna have to check him out after this.
He's incredible. Like, honestly, incredible. He talks about being the fire that welcomes the flame. Or no, being the flame that welcomes the wind.
I like that.
So the flame that welcomes the wind is the flame that grows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in this context, the wind is chaos. The wind is like pushing yourself out of these routinized sort of sterilization metrics or mechanisms that you impart in your life, which I've done. And I kind of want to get into that with you because you mentioned something earlier. But
yeah,
the idea of the way I envision it is like these routines are almost like you have this flame and you're like slowly putting a little cup over the flame. And if anybody's ever put a cup over a flame, what happens? It extinguishes because there's no oxygen. There's no chaos. There's no wind to feed it. And when you expose yourself to a certain level of chaos, that's when the flame grows, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I completely agree. And there's what I want to tie back to is I when in my baseball career, I played baseball in college, and I was the same way as you in a lot of ways. I was athletic. I was good at baseball. Like, obviously, if you go to college, D1 sport, you're going to be good, right? But I wasn't like the best. I never had like I was never like a prodigy, for example, but I worked hard and I had natural abilities, but I wanted to become like the best that I could. So I always wanted that 1%. And I actually kind of fell into the trap that you're speaking of. I became neurotic about like I have to go to bed at like 8:30 so I can get up at 4:30 before my 6 a.m. lift, and then blah, blah, fucking blah. Mm-hmm. And my baseball actually suffered. I became a worse player because of it. And my question to you is, because you mentioned that you were looking for that edge, right? And trying to not optimize, but how did you not fall into that neuroticism trap? Which is kind of what we were just talking about.
Right. I mean, I think that I did fall into that neuroticism trap to a great extent, but I was able to cut out of that the minutia of that and the neuroticism and the hypochondriac tendencies where you always think you're getting sick or you always think you're getting injured or you're always wary of like the meal you're eating because it has some bullshit in it. Like at a certain point, your human spirit is way stronger than any of that, and you can placebo hack your way to testosterone levels and performance, and you know, the power of the mind is what I leaned on more than anything, and just being resilient, being anti-fragile in the face of all of the injuries and all the stuff. And for me, like what fed my soul, what fanned my flame was just breath work. And so, okay, I'm not going to take, 10 supplements in the morning. I'm not going to be super anal about going to bed at the exact minute and waking up at the exact minute and that kind of thing. But I am going to take steps that I know most people aren't taking, which is I'm going to do cold showers. I'm going to do breath work. I'm going to drink really good water, and I'm going to be very diligent about my food. But it's like I'm going to try my best at this stuff, but understand that I'm deeply flawed and it's not going to be perfect. And if I can just keep banging the door every single day, that's going to be enough to get me over the edge and give me returns on my performance that compound over time. And so it was like picking a few things that gave me energy and fed my soul and made me feel better and got my mind right. And then sort of stripping away all the other nonsense that could be, well, this guy's using blood flow restriction bands and this guy's using these nitric oxide pills. And, but as an athlete, you're so just deep in it. Like it is the mission. It is the goal. And you kind of can't get away from that. Like as an athlete, that every day you were a baseball player, you were thinking about baseball during that day. Like I went 14 years thinking about skiing for probably more than an hour a day, every day. And also enacting how an athlete should behave every single day too. And it's been something that I've actually had to break. Like since I stopped skiing, I would still feel like guilty drinking alcohol, for example, and guilty staying up late, guilty, not training to an hour and a half, training an hour and 23 minutes. I'd be like, no, I'm doing another 7 minutes. And I'm like, wait a minute, why? Like I have nowhere to go here. I'm no longer, gunning for excellence in the sport. So that stuff gets ingrained in you. And I think the things that get ingrained in you from being an athlete are very beneficial. The time management, the diligence, it's all mental sports, and that to be an elite athlete in your formative years, or you're still very plastic in the brain and the body, is, something that is, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't have traded that path, even though that path I would hate to do it again, because cross-country skiing is just very, very painful. It's an endurance sport, and it's intense. It's like we're training, hundreds of hours every year. We have 2 weeks technically off of the season every year where you can like relax, and you can relax, but then you see your competitors still training during those 2 weeks, and you're like, God damn. So it was a balancing act.
Yeah, that I appreciate you sharing that. One thing that I'm reminded of is, so you think about what's the pinnacle of human performance as it relates to like the highest pressure would be war, would be in battle. And you think about like these tier 1 special operations groups in the American military. Let's use SEAL Team 6 as an example. Those guys are in battle at wherever the fuck they are. Let's use Afghanistan. They're not in the optimal environment. They're not fucking getting the best sleep they could get. They're not eating the best food they could eat. They're not getting optimal like sunshine or like, their life's not optimized, but they still perform in the highest pressure environment that a human being can be placed in. They perform as good as anyone has ever done. How? It's not like that's literally disproven. It's not because they're eating the fucking best foods. It's not because they're routinized and sterilized and optimized. I think what you're saying is really true. Like the human spirit, they've cultivated some sort of spirit within them that allows themselves to do that.
Also, it unlocks the spirit by default. When your life is on the line, you're tapping into the same thing that a mother is tapping into when her son is pinned under a car and she lifts the car off the son. Like we have so much untapped potential and strength and power within us that is just suffocated by this sterilized modern society and the digital devices and the EMFs and all the shitty food and all the crap just stifles the spirit. It's just suffocating the flame within. And when your life is on the line, can't even speak on this subject, frankly, but I'd imagine that it is something that you get, your conscious mind gets out of the fucking way and you just operate, and you are tapped into something else that is, you unlock the power of the human brain, body, and spirit, but without it, involuntarily. It's life or death, and your body is going to operate at the absolute highest capacity to hopefully help you survive.
There's no other option at that point.
Yeah.
That's something that I've always been fascinated by in like special operations, and just the idea that it's such a fine balance, because I advocate and I live my life like there's a quote that I kind of like coined, like brought together a couple of thoughts, which is really what any sentence is, but it's optimize the ideal so that the margins are more optimal, not non-existent. And so a tyrant tries to make the margins non-existent, and in doing so becomes tyrannical and ruins everything. You optimize the ideal being like the 90%. You optimize most of your life or most of the things you do so that the 10% that is not optimal or ideal will be more optimal than otherwise. So for example, like, because I think there's like a fine line. It's like, oh, well, Nolan and Nick said don't fucking optimize, so I can just go eat whatever the fuck I want and I'll work out, whatever, and I'll just rely on the spirit and I'll be fine. There's, like, I'm thinking about like Indian tribe, dude. They didn't give a fuck about optimizing. They didn't know what they were doing, but they were performing consistently the best that they possibly could because they had to, and they didn't have all these other things that you mentioned are like stifling the spirit. It's so interesting to me, just like that balance. It's definitely it's a walk on a tightrope because you don't want to become like negligent with your lifestyle or your choices, but you certainly don't want to become tyrannical. It's a balancing act for sure, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the survival instinct we've lost, and the survival instinct is crucial for feeding our souls, and also creating the life that we want to live amidst the modern challenges require the survival instinct, but so many people have lost that and they're just stifled. And it's interesting, like with all of the information that we have today, all of these top doctors putting out content, like it's all readily available, and you should use these modern solutions for the modern problems, but also don't disregard the solutions that have propelled humanity to where it is today. But it is a balancing act, and you don't want to become neurotic about it, and you have to just be wary, knowing that like these things can make you stray from your true nature. I mean, look at Brian Johnson, not the Liver King, the other guy who's just, he doesn't get sunlight. He drinks a little bit of alcohol every day. He does millions of dollars worth of these things so that he can optimize. And, I know his body is super optimized, but I have a feeling that his ability to tap into raw willpower or creativity or just the raw natural states that you can attain as a human being are just very like hamstrung for him, I'd imagine. I'd imagine it's very difficult with all of these things and all these things going through his mind on, well, if I do this, then I'm going to have, my telomeres are going to be fucked up. Or like, that's not a way to live for me,
It's sterile, like you're talking about. And to what end? Like what? Like to what end, bro? You like literally can't, you can't leave your house.
Yeah.
So to me, like that's the shit to me. It's, I don't want to throw shade or throw stones. Like I understand. I think what he's doing is perhaps I think it's like a little bit transhumanistic. Like
I'll throw shade. I don't care.
It's like, it's weird to me. It doesn't sit well because I think whatever information or data that he's trying to accrue is, if it's helpful in a world that I don't want to be a part of, which is a sterile world where you can be optimized if you don't leave your house. If you want to leave your house or don't want to get any sunshine, which is fucking like, that's the first thing. Like, nope. If you don't want to get any sunshine, you don't want to leave your house, you don't want to eat meat, you want to take 100 and something pills a day. You want to work out for the exact second, like 53 minutes and whatever second, and you don't want to have any like cool relationships with people outside of your house and blah, 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 then go ahead and do that. But I have zero fucking interest in doing that. And that's why I think it's dangerous, because it's like he's gaining all this clout and like interest. People are interested in it. And it's a weird feeling to me, because I really do think it's the information that, like I said, the information that he's accruing is helpful for people in a world that I do not want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. And I also think it's funny. I just have to make this comment. I think God is funny. I think God has a sense of humor because
yeah, for sure.
Brian Johnson, his name's spelled Bryan Johnson. He's 40 something years old. There's another fella named Brian Johnson alive right now, named Liver King. His name is Brian Johnson. They're alive at the exact same time. They're both extremely wealthy. They're both extremely famous on social media. They're both pushing extreme health lifestyles. Polar, completely different. The exact same like age range. They both have some. I just think God's like, look at this shit, dude. Like,
Yeah.
like y'all, like I don't know. It's just funny to me how that
It's hilarious.
it is if you think about it.
And I think, the real problem is that you then create a system, you architect your life based on fear of dying. All of these things he's doing is to avoid getting older and dying. And that's a low vibrational way to live your life. Like, it's, for me personally, and I've had this paradigm shift where I was, I basically came to the conclusion early in college, like, I'm going to die young. I don't know why exactly I came up with this. I was like, oh, the happiest people always die young. I'm going to send this shit out. And I think most young men have this invincibility complex. And then that totally flipped itself on its head, where I had a season that was really good. I skied really well. I was in great shape. And I was like, okay, all right, let's tighten it up a little bit. Let's stop staying up late with the girlfriend, and like,
Maybe I'll die like 10 years later.
Yeah, let's. But it wasn't even so much for like a mortality reasons. I was just like, okay, if I can do this while living this lifestyle, where I'm running a company, I'm not sleeping well, I'm not eating well, but I'm still training really hard and performing really well. What if I just cut out all the fat and then focus tunnel vision on ski racing? And of course, God has a humor, and I got injured and was injured for 10 months. I had to redshirt. I couldn't ski race that year. The doctor was like, oh, your ski career is over. You'll probably walk without pain in a year. And that's when I, flipped the script on the frame of mind that I was in when I was injured, which was, I gotta put this cream on the foot, and I've gotta take this supplement, and I've gotta do these PT exercises, and I've gotta do XYZ to get myself healthy again. That paradigm that I was living in was just all based on fear of this injury lasting longer and longer and longer, and my career being over. And it was all fear-based, and it's not a way to operate. It's not a way to unlock the physiological capacity that we all have. And so I just turned to, what's the most natural lever I can pull to change my reality right now? And that ended up being the breath. And breath is the razor's edge between the unconscious and the conscious. And when you intentionally and consciously breathe, you are enacting your willpower upon your physical vessel. It's a manifestation of willpower, is the breath, because you are literally willing yourself to breathe deeper. And when you're combining, when you're doing that and you're getting good at it and you're doing it every single day, you become super in tune with your body to the point that, like, your body really, it's intelligent in and of itself, but then you can imprint your intention, which in my case was to heal my foot. And I was skiing again in 3 months, and the doctor's like, what the fuck?
And you attribute that predominantly to breath work.
Yep. I willed myself back to the start line through the breath as my vehicle.
There's something, we were talking in the sauna earlier, the book Breath by James Nestor. When you think about the hierarchy of things that are needed to survive. So you have food. You can literally last months without food.
Mm-hmm.
You have water. Contrary to popular belief, you can last more than 3 days, but you can last maybe, let's say, a week, 2 weeks without water. You can literally not go more than a handful of minutes without breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it is the least, even in my life today, like, I'm saying this as somebody who, like, I've gone through seasons of focusing on breath work and more dived in, more tapped into that, but it's the thing that I focus on least.
Mm-hmm.
Yet as I just mentioned, it's literally like the number one thing that I need. For me to eat well, I have to be breathing. For me to drink water, I have to be breathing. For me to move, I have to be breathing.
Yep.
So it's funny how that gets like lost. It's almost like so in front of our face that we like try to look around it to see what else is out there. Why do you think breath work was the predominant like vehicle for you to get healthy? Like what was it about the actual act of breathing in like an intentful way?
A few things. I mean, I think first of all, you learn a lot about your true nature when you're holding your breath. So you become very in tune with your nature when you're completely still, and it puts you in a frame of mind that can be very productive depending on what you're trying to do. And in my case, I was trying to heal myself, and I was trying to overcome this mountain that I thought was probably insurmountable because the doctors told me that it was over. But I think that I had tried meditating after I was told this by the doctor, but the walls are caving in 24/7. I'm having these intrusive negative thoughts that are not productive or conducive to getting me back to the start line. And so I was looking for a break, a breath of fresh air, and just a pause on life. And the breath gave me the pause, and it gave me a way for me to move these thoughts, these energetic patterns, these trauma through my body. I think you can go to therapy and release trauma through a conversation, but when you are actively sorting through your past and the reasons why you do what you do and the ways that you think and why you are falling into these patterns of thought, but you are actively moving your body, it's a cycle, it's a circle. The energetic movement within your body is a circle, and when you're breathing, you're cycling these things through you. And I would have these epiphanies, I would have these creative downloads, but I would also have these like purges where I would have these visceral visions from my past come up to the surface, and I would hold it there, but I'm still breathing as I'm holding it there. And as I'm doing that, I'm relaxing and letting it dissolve and dissipate. And then it's no longer part of my programming. It's no longer ingrained into my being. And I think that I had to overcome a lot of thought patterns and like trauma to get to a place where I could direct my mind to heal my foot and get back to the start line. And so it drew me because it quieted the mind, and it was something like I can just latch onto the breath, and I'm not going to be bombarded by these negative thoughts. And even if I am, I just keep holding onto the breath and I'm impervious to it. And then it became even healthier, where I was like, okay, well, let's explore this. And I'm exploring this as I'm breathing, and I'm, moving the body, and the body's able to like, something happens where, it just pretty much cycles out the top of my head, and it's no longer a part of me. And then I would feel purified in my body and in my thinking. And that allowed me to cultivate the inner strength to overcome the injury. And then just in general, like the breath is, and this is a huge part of Based Bra that I really have not even gone into deep, but we're all in the business of building cults, and each cult needs an enemy. And my enemy is the medical establishment, even though it has its place. And if I break my arm, which I did, I'm going to the doctor. But as for your general health, I think that a lot of the answers lie within nature, and that includes the breath. The breath is an embodiment of your true nature. And if you can, there's science coming out now, but you can gain the feeling of invincibility in your own health and your own physical vessel when you believe that you can overcome any health problem with breath work and with the power of grounding and sunshine and good water and good food and all these types of things. And this is where all the science is heading. If you hear Huberman talking about it now, it's like he's pointing his fingers towards nature in a lot of ways. He's not pointing his fingers towards supplements and that kind of stuff as much anymore. And so I just felt like I was ahead of the curve. I had gone through this experience, came out the other end stronger, healthier. My mind was better. My nervous system would not react in an adverse way if some adversity came into my life, something stressful happens. I'm no longer having a physical reaction. I'm just taking it in and learning. I'm just taking it in and evaluating with a calm mind, because I had increased my stress tolerance through the breath and through ice bath and that kind of thing, to the point where unless something really gnarly happens, I'm not going to start shaking. I'm not going to close up. I'm not going to tense. My body's going to be completely relaxed. And when your body is completely relaxed, it's very hard to stay angry. It's very hard to stay frustrated or sad, because it's a system. Your mind, your body dictates the thoughts of your mind, and your thoughts dictate the state of your body. And if you can master the body to the nth degree, then your mental environment is going to be very much more of a well-oiled machine that works in your favor. And so there's a lot of facets about breath work that I'm very bullish on, and there's a lot of minutia that we could get into, but breath just sort of called me because I had used it as a performance enhancement in the beginning. Like the night before races, I'd go out in a bathing suit in the pitch black dark, and I would like pancake on the snow while I was Wim Hofing. None of my teammates knew I was doing it. None of my coaches, like kind of psycho shit. But then I would end up having amazing races the next day, and I would be doing breath work right before the race in the start line and stuff. And, basically hyperventilating before the start line. I'm sure my competitors thought I was a nervous wreck or something, but I was just dialed and oxygenated, and then I would go blow it out on the race. And it just was like, this is a very powerful tool. I'm definitely going to use this. And then it turned into my rock in the river that I was clutching onto as my health was slipping, as the injury was happening and the world's coming down on me. I can hold on to the breath no matter what is happening in the world. I have my breath. I can always return to the breath. And it sounds so cliche. People are like, take a deep breath. Actually, if you're stressed out, don't take a deep breath.
Hold your breath.
Hold your breath, or breathe as little as possible. The bigger your breaths are, the more fight or flight you're inciting. The smaller and slower your breaths are, the more rest and digest. And it makes sense. It's like, well, why would your body be dumping a bunch of energy if it knows that it's not getting enough oxygen? Then it's going to be like, we got to slow the fuck down if we're going to survive.
Yeah.
So that's a long-winded way of just saying that, there's a lot of different avenues, and breath work is a journey for everyone and a unique journey, and it's something they have to find on their own, and they're only going to find it through consistency. And I always preach consistency, because people are like, oh my God, I just did this Wim Hof method and the ice bath and I feel amazing and blah, blah, blah. But they don't follow up. And that's where the real gains happen, is when you're consistent and it starts compounding, and each day you're unlocking energy patterns, and you're getting more in tune with the way your energy is flowing in your body, the way that your blood flow is changed by the breath. And like I was able to get my right foot way hotter than my left foot using literally only my mind. And this is the kind of stuff that Wim Hof is showing in his studies, and many such cases of people healing from cancer and Parkinson's and all these horrible ailments. And that's why the medical establishment is like the enemy, because I just think that people have this inert power within them that just needs to be unlocked on a consistent basis, and they can overcome most any health ailment. And then you supplement the foundation underneath of, good water, good sleep, good food, sunshine, grounding, maybe some hormetic stressors like sauna or ice bath. And that's really all you need. And if you combine it with this potent breath work, and you really begin to get in touch with your true nature, and then you direct what you want to be your reality with the mind. It's very Joe Dispenza, but you can do anything. I really believe that.
Yeah, that there's a lot to unpack there. I I heard you mentioned the word oxygenated, which is a massive, specifically of Wim Hof. Like oxygen is, it's like you just need it. Like you literally need oxygen to live. And I was listening to Gary Brecka on Joe Rogan today, and he was talking about how everybody dies the same. Hypoxia, a lack of oxygen to the brain. Every single person dies the exact same way. It's a lack of oxygen to the brain, one way or another. Whether that's a gunshot, whether that's a heart attack, whether that's dementia, whether that's what it revolves around. You dying revolves around oxygen not reaching your brain, which is so interesting to hear because when we're oxygenated, like, so if that's death, that's a far end of the spectrum. I don't know if there's such thing as too much oxygen. I'm sure there is, but like, if that's what happens when you die, my mind is like, okay, well, how do I get more oxygen in my body? And you 100% can increase the levels of oxygen in your body, circulating in your body with breath work. The Wim Hof thing too. I mean, once again to reference Breath by James Nestor, he was talking about this guy, this guy, some monk or something that could literally melt snow around him using his breath. Like he would just sit there and breathe and breathe and breathe, and he would control his body temperature to the point where his breath, like the snow around him would melt. He would also be able to change the temperature on his fingers. It's like one finger would be a different temperature than the other, and then he would change it.
With his mind and without even the breath work too. Like that's the thing, is he's become so in tune with his body that he can change the temperature. He has taken these automatic unconscious processes in the body, like your body temperature, and he's able to direct it through the sheer willpower and the mental intention. And Wim Hof method is just the derivative of Wim Hof is Tumo, which is what this guy was doing. It was up in the Himalayas. They would put wet towels on these guys in the middle of the night, and they would have to breathe and evaporate the wet towels off of their back, and whoever evaporated the towels to be dry, the most towels to get evaporated by the end of the night was like the winner. And yeah, it's just so powerful what you can tap into with this stuff. And yes, you can become, you can only, the thing is you oxygenate your body with Wim Hof, but you have to, you need oxygen to live, but you also need CO2.
Sure.
And CO2 is what unlinks oxygen from hemoglobin in the bloodstream. So you can have a surplus of oxygen in the body, but if your CO2 level is super low, that oxygen's not going to get unlinked and then used. It's just going to stay until eventually it'll get used, of course. But that's why the retentions, I think that's the reason. I mean, what we breathe in, if you want to get esoteric, it's prana, it's life force, it's chi. The more that you bring into your body, in my eyes, the more vital you are. And so I haven't missed a day in like 2.5 years of doing breathwork to some capacity, because I just know that it boosts my state of being no matter what. But it also, like, after a workout, you can down-regulate yourself too. It's like you don't want to finish a workout and then be in this fight or flight mode for another hour, expending a bunch of energy and not being in a recovery state. So at the end of a workout, you make your exhales longer than your inhales, or you do a physiological sigh. And this is the stuff that like the Tour de France guys were doing, Lance was doing at the end of the stage. It's immediately you're in the bus, longer exhales than inhales, and you're immediately put into that rest and digest place. So Lance was getting an hour, maybe 2 hours more of being in a recovery state than all the other competitors at the end of the stage. And that, he ended up
doing pretty well,
biking kind of fast. So.
Yeah. It's fascinating, dude. Another question that I have is, like, what would you recommend is like a good starting point for somebody? Because, I mean, like I mentioned, I've done breath work in the morning, and we were talking about it in the sauna earlier as well. And it feels fucking good. Like I did it probably for a month straight, which, talk about consistency. I was doing like 25 I think it was like Huberman protocol or something. It was like 25 breaths, like 25 of those, and then breath hold for as long as I could. And then 25 breath hold, 25 breath hold. But and I enjoyed it. This is inspiring me to get back into that. But my question to you is like, how would you recommend somebody that's like never done breath work to get started?
I think that first and foremost, don't put pressure on yourself. Like, I would say make it so that if you take 10 conscious breaths a day, you check the box and you're like, I did breath work today. And get on a streak, and just once you're on a streak, don't lose the streak. And it comes down to remembering these types of things, like all these types of things. Is remember to notice your thoughts, remember to meditate, remember to go to sleep at the right time, remember to breathe consciously once per day. It doesn't have to be this extravagant 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing or, pranayama. Like, keep it very simple and keep it very doable, and understand that this is a journey that is going to, over time, change your life. But like, I would say it's good to do a real bout of breath work in a controlled environment, potentially with someone that knows what they're doing, not in water where you can pass out and die like I used to do, which really, I mean, it's a blessing that I am here today. And make it so that it's just easy and simple, and you're not putting pressure on yourself, and you're not making this like 10-step system in order to check the box that you did breath work today. Like, literally take 5 conscious breaths once per day. Just remember to do that. Write it on your hand, make an alarm on your phone. Like, okay, stop, 10 breaths. And if they're, people come to me to learn about breath work when they're in the hospital already, or when they're already sick, or they're already feeling, the decline of their cognition or something like that. And, a lot of people are not yet there. It's good to be proactive about your health so that you can prolong there's a bad day coming for everyone. But if you can add vitality to your life and years to your life today by doing breath work every single day from here on out, it's going to be improving every single metric in your life. And so I would say start off with, if all you can do is 10 conscious breaths, it doesn't have to be deep. Like, follow your feeling. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Really just, it's a manifestation of your own true nature. It's just you're bringing your own true nature into reality through the way you breathe. So breathe how you want to breathe. I would recommend only breathing through your nose. However, I do Wim Hof through my nose and my mouth at the same time still. I just kind of like that. But breathe through your nose. Try to breathe through your nose only, even when working out, and understand that this is a process. It's not going to be you're not going to be changing the way you breathe. Like, for me right now, I think my default is probably like around 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out by default, unconsciously. And that's what James Nestor says is the most optimal breath for a human being. And I think that I've literally achieved that. And I know that in and of itself is adding years to my life unconsciously now. And people can get to the place where their breath is more optimized and natural. And it starts with consistent practice like anything else. But it doesn't have to be something where, it doesn't have to be a lot of friction. Try to take the friction out of the picture. Try to breathe 10 breaths, 30 breaths once a day, deep breaths, and just notice how you feel at the end of that. It's definitely like everyone has the light bulb flick on at some point when they're doing breath work. It sounds like for you it was when you did the Wim Hof method. And for many people, for me, it was the same thing. It was like, whoa, my physiological state is way different now that I just did that. And so is my mental state. And understand that power is at the tip of your lips always. And over time, like, try to make it the thing that you can rely on. It gives you inner confidence. It gives you more power. It gives you this feeling of invincibility within your own body, and it makes you feel like you are in control of your health because you are in control. If you get to the place where you're doing it consistently and you're in tune with your body, which will come naturally by doing it consistently, then you can handle what may come. You know, I broke my arm. I was sending energy to my arm, and the doctor was like, "You're healing really fucking quickly." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
I know.
Like, you don't even have to tell me. Like, I know my left arm is getting hotter than my right arm because each day I'm practicing for 30 minutes, sending the energy there, mental intention, using visualization during the breath.
That sounds so, like, that actually sounds so foo-foo to a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, it does.
I'm 100% sure of that. Like, there's people listening to this that are like, that sounds crazy. Kobe Bryant is an example of somebody I like to look at. Number one, buddy tore his Achilles and then continued to walk on the court and then made 2 free throws, or maybe one, literally like continued playing with a torn Achilles when most people would be like screaming in pain, like couldn't do anything. And then he basically got asked about it, and he was like, well, when the game is bigger than the pain, like, your mind will adapt, essentially. So he was using his mind. He's like, his mind like just negated that. He's like, it doesn't matter to me. Mm-hmm. And his example was, if you're picking up if your house catches on fire, you pick up your kid on the second floor, you run to their room, you tear your hamstring, are you going to not get out of the house? Mm-hmm. No, you're going to get the fuck out of the house. So what is that? That's the spirit. That's the mind that you're talking about. But he also, Gordon Hayward, who's another basketball player, I don't even watch the NBA. I literally just remember this. He tore his Achilles, or no, he broke his ankle really badly, like a disgusting fracture. And Kobe posted something along the lines of like, dude, get well, whatever. But he told him, start visualizing yourself healthy. Like, visualize your ankle healthy so that I think he mentioned something about like it'll heal faster, but like so that when your ankle starts to gain like capabilities, your mind will be ready for it and adapted to it, which that's like one of the only Kobe stories that I remember. But I remember being like, what does that mean? Like, visualize your ankle healthy. What would that do? But I think you're speaking on that right now. Like, it really, you can, who said it? Nikola Tesla. Like, if you want to understand the world, think in terms of energy, frequency, and something like that.
Vibration.
Yeah. So like, I really do. And the reason I brought that up is because like Kobe is a relatable figure, and he literally would do this. Mm-hmm. Like, he would do these types of things where he would send energy. He would visualize his body parts being healthy. Which is in essence sending intention and energy towards a body part. But yeah, breath work, dude, I mean, you definitely got me pilled. That's for sure. Like, you're pretty good salesman.
Good.
I
pill most people. The thing is, people don't stay consistent with it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I feel amazing. And it's been 1 week and I've been doing it and I feel way better and my injury is getting better and blah, blah, blah. And then I talked to them a month later and they fell off the train because they're like, oh, I was better, so I stopped. Well, it goes much further than that, to the point where, well, what can I do with the power of my mind? Yes, you can block out an injury. Yes, you can send energy to a certain place. You can heal yourself, but you can also enhance yourself. And that's why all these optimization techniques and all these pills and all this stuff, it just kind of gets lost on me, because I know that with the power of the mind, my intention really like has been, how many points in IQ can I increase myself through? You know, if I have a surplus of energy in my body that I have gained from doing 30 breaths, now I have more, I have more energy. That's a fact. Can I direct that energy? Well, after 2.5 years of practice, yes, I can. What about 40 years of practice? What then? What could be possible then?
You're drying 10 towels a night.
Yeah, exactly. The ceilings will be that can be shattered, and you know that's why Wim Hof is really an inspiration, because you know, and I've seen people online kind of like poking holes in the scientific philosophy that he has on it. To me, it doesn't really matter. Like, I follow my intuition, and my intuition laughs when people say that this is an unhealthy practice or that you're oxidizing your blood and it's making bad things in your body proliferate. I'm like, your body's more intelligent than that. I refuse to believe that it's not.
Didn't he hike
Everest in shorts? He ran a half marathon with barefoot. He has the longest,
on ice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I think we try to rationalize things that, in my opinion, can't and shouldn't be rationalized. It's the same with God. Like science is really just a way to rationalize things that for the vast majority of human experience haven't been rationalized and haven't needed to. But I love your advice right there, dude, to like make it frictionless, because friction is what like stops things. So like it's all about building momentum, really, because then say somebody does 10 days of 10 breaths, that's incredibly easy. Tony Robbins says, if you don't have 10 minutes, you need an hour. If you don't have an hour, then you need a life, or you don't have a life. So I think that's such valid advice, because that is the thing that, like, when people are trying to start a new habit, myself included, like when I've tried to start a new habit, I've like, in the past, I've built up these walls. I'm like, oh, I have to do this for like, so if I'm going to do a new type of training or whatever the fuck, I don't know. Or if I'm in a cold tub every day, if I want to get cold exposure, then I have to take a 5-minute cold plunge. It's like, no, you don't. Just literally take a cold shower. Like at the end of your shower, turn it cold. And then you do that enough times, you build momentum. So I love that. I love that advice that you just imparted on the people.
I mean, your body adapts to everything. And for me, breath is easy, because cross-country skiing was all breathing. You got to breathe a certain way going up the hill, down the hill, at the start, at the finish. And so it's easy for me. And that's why I gravitated towards it. But it gets easier for everyone. The more they practice, the more their diaphragm muscles, their intercostal muscles, they're all going to get stronger. It's going to get easier. It's also just going to become more ingrained in your conditioning and in your nature. And I think that, unfortunately, people have a propensity to believe in things that make them weaker. And so, yeah, it sounds esoteric. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but why not, like, honestly evaluate your physiological and mental state at the end of a breathwork session, and you'll see that it's making you you're operating at a higher state on every level. And you can capture that anytime. I use it like, it takes people from the breath, when they unlock it, it takes them from being an automatic transmission to a manual, where suddenly you can shift up and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gears, whatever, accordingly to your life. So before a business meeting, I'm going to shift up to 5. I'm going to get a bunch of energy. And then I'm going to shift down to 3 so that I have a calm, collected mindset and I'm centered, but I have all this energy that's now directed in my mind and on the objective of the business meeting, for example. At the end of a training session, I shift down to 1. My nervous system goes into rest and digest right away. Right before a training session, I'll shift up to 5, get a bunch of energy, and then let's go. Something stressful happens, I shift down. I'm feeling tired, I shift up. And I just am able to ride the waves of life in a much more graceful manner than being like drive, neutral, reverse. Because people live in a state of drive or park. Yep. And it's either sympathetic or I'm sleeping restlessly because I had, some drinks or like what people can unlock a much more graceful manner of going about their lives and their days. And it's also something that you can lean on. Something super stressful is happening. Well, I know that I can get my body into a state of calm, and then I can think about this calmly, and then I can make the right action from there instead of being in a frenzy, being in fight or flight perpetually, because that's not the optimal state of a high performer.
Totally agree. I kind of joked about it earlier. I want to switch, or actually maybe it's related in some way for you, but semen retention. Something you talk about on Twitter a lot. I know you had like a porn post go like mega viral. Yeah, like 1 million or something.
Yeah, the anime gamers came out of the woodwork on that one. A lot of cope in the comments.
A lot of copium, dude. There was that one interaction we've talked about that I thought was absolutely hilarious with the marketer guy. Like top 100 marketer.
Oh, yeah.
0 engagement.
He ended up getting banned off Twitter.
Probably because his content was so bad. But this is something that's like, it's kind of gaining traction right now, I would say, in some circles. Like I think like porn and like on the macro, I think it's like still very small, the idea. But like in esoteric Twitter, it's like pretty
Yeah.
much like commonplace that people at least talk about it.
Yep.
And I mean, it's November right now, so no Nut November and shit. But
Yep.
what's your thought behind that? And I know this is like another one of those topics that's kind of like very esoteric, woo woo, and kind of taboo.
Yeah.
But
It can be grounded in reality, though. I mean, I think that you look at the Troy Casey was just making a point about this, but
he's a G, by the way.
yeah,
Physiognomy checks out. He's
Yeah,
like
he
56.
does.
Looks like an absolute savage.
yeah. He actually reached out to me from that porn thread. We like had
Let's
a little
go.
dialogue, and he's but to me, you can ground this in reality and make it less esoteric. Like if you look at the people of the church that have to abstain, that are just celibate for life, they fall off the deep end, and there's many such cases of them, having sex with kids and shit. Like there's that end of the
This
spectrum.
podcast took a turn.
Yeah.
No, okay.
And then there's the other side of the spectrum where these people go so deep down the rabbit hole in porn that their mind gets twisted and their fantasies are all fucked up, and they keep looking for more and more extremes because that's how the reptilian brain is wired. You keep needing more juice to get off. And Ted Bundy, for example, attributes like his acts of disgusting nature to porn. And no one really talks about it, but in The Sound of Freedom, they mentioned how it was a movie about child trafficking that came out over the summer during Barbie and Oppenheimer. Pretty coincidental how that happened, and how no other box office would let it be distributed except for this one low-key one that
And it absolutely crushed.
it did crush, but it was stifled by
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
in power. But
Not ironically, because
Yeah.
that's a whole nother topic about Hollywood and shit.
Yeah.
But go ahead, continue.
But child trafficking has increased 5,000% in the past 5 years, and it's about to eclipse the drug trade market capitalization. And I think that that's attributed to porn. This is a theory that I was laying out in the thread that I think rings true. Is so many people now have the porn at the touch of their fingertips, and they can access it at any time. And this is, everyone's dirty little secret, and it's also been normalized by society, but we have overlooked the potential consequences of it. And to get away from, the super evil consequences of it that lie on the far ends of the spectrum, closer to the middle is when you are not retaining this potent life force energy, which is very potent. One load
Yeah.
has 300 million to 500 million viable sperm cells. Yeah, viable lives. You could populate
Well, that's depending
America
on-
with one load, let's say.
That also that does depend on like whether or not you got polyester on your ball sack and
Yeah, for
all
sure.
these types of things. Sperm motility and all these things.
Yeah.
It's going down.
Whenever I'm not celibate, I'm definitely bagging up. That's all I gotta say. But my point is that you get all of these fuel sources in your life. You can get it from food, water, breath, and then sleep. And then the power of the mind. Also, you can unlock energy. But this sperm, like that, is this refined energy that the body creates. It breaks down all the food, breaks down all the energy sources into glucose and fuel for the body, but it goes, with each subsequent step, you get closer to this most refined source of energy in the body, which is the sperm. And if you are consistently dumping that energy without a real purpose, without any sort of gain, it's just detrimental on every level. And I don't have, the peer-reviewed clinical studies in my lap here, but I can say from my personal experience, like being celibate and retaining for a long time, the benefits just continue to increase. The energy, the resiliency of my immune system, my muscle tendons, my mental acuity, my memory, my recall, all of these metrics have improved way more than any of the optimization strategies or supplements that I've ever tried. The only thing that comes close to it is the breath, but the breath is one of those things that's, it's a shorter time frame. So I'll do some breath work. I'll feel good for 6 hours. But if I retain for 3 months or more, then it's this consistent elevation of my energy and of my mind and cognition and all that kind of stuff. And so I really, really believe that so many people, like what happens is, okay, you stop blowing your loads. This energy, especially if you can skillfully circulate the energy and not keep it in your sexual organs, it's going to like fill your cup up to your head. And when you get to the place where you have this energy circulating to the level of your head, that's when the light bulb went off for me, was like, whoa, I feel way different. My thought patterns are way more beneficial and positive and optimistic, and I just am sharper. I'm thinking more clearly. My resting heart rate's lower at night. My inflammation is way down. My testosterone is way higher. I'm much more effective. And I'm also, I think, like, for me, I was just a victim. And I think that most men, young men and women, I speak about men because that's just what I am. But they have, no one knew how to deal with it. No one knew how to deal with having a phone that had porn on it.
Yeah.
And it was everyone's dirty little secret. And it's like, everyone's doing these things behind closed doors and no one wants to talk about it. And then there's also the people that are in denial and coping, and they don't want to believe that expelling their life force energy is detrimental in any way. They don't want to believe that it's actually very negative and has consequences. And so,
but it's also the way in which you do it. Like,
yes,
you know, it's like what's your mind? Our minds are like, we associate, like we have associative minds. It's like, if every time, there's a reason that an orgasm feels good, because it's it's reinforcing, like, because our goal as a species is to procreate, create more of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a reason that that's such a potently positive sensation. Whenever you're associating that sensation, which can be the release of your life force, sperm, with something like porn, that I don't know exactly how to articulate how negative that can be or how negative it is, but to me it just makes sense. It's like, that's not. It goes back to like this idea that we're wired for scarcity, but we live in a world of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't think there's ever been a time in human history, I really don't, that a group of men, if they were given access to porn, they would not have fallen victim to it to some degree.
Yep.
At large, because it's so like diabolically engineered to tap into our brain. Like, dude, when you watch porn, your brain literally thinks, wow, I'm procreating. Like, essentially it thinks it's procreating, which is the sexual desire is the strongest desire a human being or species possesses, because biologically that is quite literally the main imperative of a species, is to procreate.
Mm-hmm. So
it's just such a diabolic, I don't know. It's wild. Do you know who Prince Saladin is? I have my phone because I'm going to look at this quote. Have you ever heard that quote about, it's about like to take over a country?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to read that because
that's a great quote. Yeah. If you find that, I mean, my point is, if you had a monk that was celibate his entire life, but then someone put him in a room with a phone that was streaming, fucking softcore porn from Instagram, like, is he going to be able to do it? And it's going to be very difficult for him at the very least. Like, we're not designed to be able to handle these phones. And it's a matter of a choice of being like, getting the exposure and the stimulus completely out of your feed, of your phone, and getting it so that it's not even an option. But I would say that like the most powerful point for me is throughout my life I've been, I've had girlfriends. I was dating, and I've been with plenty of women, but it was all like skewed through this lens of like how I viewed them from porn. It was tainted, even though it was unconscious. Like I would see women in a certain way and think that it was just how it is and how I'm supposed to see women, when actually it was tainted by porn. And it was this hypersexualized wanting something from them, craving something from them, instead of just being able to see and appreciate the beauty that is women. And I love women. I am a lover of all women. And I think that this perspective, though, has only come to the surface really, where it's like, you guys are the most, like, the smile from a beautiful woman is the most inspiring thing in the universe. The curve of a woman, the just sheer magnificence and beauty can only be the result of a benevolent God, in my opinion. And that's completely deteriorated by modern society. And porn and all this stuff. They're seen as objects, not as the manifestation of the Almighty. And to be able to claim your own sexuality and your own lust and your own urges and have complete control over them, and understand that you don't need it, you don't need porn, you don't need to ejaculate, you don't need to date a woman, you don't need to have sex with a woman. If you feel that strength within you, that knowingness, then you see a woman through a much different lens. And this is the lens that I want to be seeing a woman through when choosing my life partner. I don't want to be seeing a woman through the lens that is tainted by porn, where I'm seeing her as an object, or I'm seeing her as something that I need and that I want, and for, mostly sexual purposes. Now that I've been celibate for a while and staying, I've been reading books on this kind of stuff too, but since being just completely abstinent, completely celibate, retaining, I see women through a totally different light, and I can see them more objectively as like, does this person, and I haven't even felt this because I haven't met a woman like of this caliber yet, but I know that when I do, I'm going to be able to see her through a lens that is multidimensional, that is not just a sexual plane. And I think that that's very important, because I think a lot of people get into relationships because they just are super physically attracted to the person, and they have this tainted view of what a woman is or what a man is. And that is going to skew their evaluation of the person to an extent that could make it a doomed relationship. I want to be seeing and thinking as clearly as possible when choosing a partner. And if I have been tainted by porn, or if I am addicted to sex or porn, then I know I'm not going to be viewing it in that way from a place of objective, and just sort of from a place of like a purified soul and a purified lens. And so I think that's like the most powerful thing that I've found from semen retention, along with just you become more of a whole man when you know you don't need sex, and you are not a slave to your addiction or your urges or your lust. You're not a slave to anything. You're your own man standing on your own 2 feet. You have filled out your masculine frame, and then you can go into the world and view women through a more pure light, a more benevolent, maybe not benevolent, but
pure, I think, is a good.
Yeah, through a more pure viewpoint. And then I think that it's going to allow me to choose who I want to be with in a way that gives me much more confidence. I'm going to see her, and I'm going to know that I'm not being skewed by my desire for sex, but that like I don't need her for sex or even physical comfort, or, I'm my own man. I stand on my own 2 feet, and I'll be able to evaluate that person when she comes into my life. But I think that most men are still stuck. And I've talked to a lot of my like friends who are in relationships, but they're still addicted to porn. And they're like, you know, the sexual polarity is diminished. They're not having sex as much. They don't have that connection with their partner. It's all getting deteriorated and tainted. And I'm like, dude, you can go to couples therapy and you can journal about it all fucking day. But if you are tainting your sexual energy and yeah, if you're not a whole man, then it's going to be very difficult for you to eradicate any sort of codependency on sex, because people stay with people because of the sex too. That it's like this thing that they don't want to lose, and it becomes down to finally they realize like I don't even want to have sex with her anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah,
but
100%. Well, I got the quote pulled up. I think when I first heard this, I was like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. You think about where the West is going right now, it's kind of odd. America specifically. Saladin once said, if you want to destroy any nation without war, make adultery or nudity common in the young. For all of the reasons that you just mentioned. It's also, there's a level of, for a man to get to a point where he is of high enough quality to procreate with a woman of equal quality or value, there's a journey that has to be undertaken and completed to get to that point of value.
Yep.
And what porn does is it tricks your mind into thinking that you're already there. It tricks your mind into thinking that, oh wait, I'm good right here because I can just do this.
Yep.
And it's so deleterious in so many ways. It's a sin. It's like all sins are against the self, but there's something particular about, and I think it has to do with what I was saying earlier about like the sexual desire being the strongest desire of humans. There's something particularly diabolic about porn, because it's a sin against the self. And one thing I know several men, women as well, that they're in relationships together that never had sex until they were married. And to me, that's not me. I'm not like, I will never be able to go to my wife and be like, I'm giving you all of myself, which is something I think is like a dialogue that a lot of men have. And I think I don't think on the macro that's a good thing, but it is what it is. Like, you have to move forward. That relationship, like I'm thinking of a particular friend of mine, I know a guy which I think is incredible. In today's world, has never ejaculated until he met his wife. I think I respect that. I think that's admirable, because every ounce of association that he has with sex is associated with that woman.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey that he took for himself to become his own man, but also to learn who she was and know who she was and become one with her before sex was even involved.
Mm-hmm.
That type of relationship, I think, potentiates the most fruitfulness. Like and then that's like an interesting conversation I've had with my own self. It's like, well, I won't be able to do that. It's like, how do you go on from there? And I think you have to start where you are, which is like, I mean, porn is literally the undertone. Like, I want to say I saw a statistic once where it was like 95% of men in America, maybe, or something like some crazy number of men admitted to ejaculating to porn at least once in their life. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense. Like, that's not surprising to me,
mm-hmm.
because of how much it taps into our hard wiring, which
mm-hmm.
is why I think it's such I think it's, people can, I mean, drugs are obviously very addictive and stuff, but like there's something particularly difficult about porn because it's been so normalized as well. Like, getting addicted to heroin, that's not normal. So like, society tells you that that's bad, but like, it's almost like society has been like bolstering it in humans for a while. So it's like, it's like you have to break two addictions in one, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's being articulated well.
No, I think it is. I think that, one thing that Montauk Chia talks about in Taoist Secrets of Love, which I would recommend anyone who's interested in this topic they should read it. The concept that as you accumulate and cultivate your sexual power and your energy, and it moves through your body, and you fill your cup up, let's say, that has a purifying effect on your own sexual energy. It's eradicating and dissolving the poison that is in the well. And so, yeah, you may have had many sexual encounters before in your past, and you've exchanged deep, subtle sexual energies with people that you may not want to. But I can attest that my personal experience, I feel that I have purified my well to the extent that I will be able to bring my best self and my embodiment of my sexual energy to my partner. Like, it is almost erasing the past in a way. It feels that it is. It feels that I am no longer viewing women in this way. It feels that I'm cultivating inner strength and resilience and confidence and discipline and all these other good things that come along with this. But ultimately, another esoteric thing he says, which is, within you have your yin energies, the feminine energies, and the yang energies, the masculine energies. And you are able to you're able to practice this retention and circulation of the energy. And over time, these energies within you will meld together harmoniously and result in it that he says it like these energies can have sex within you and rebirth a new you. And that's hella esoteric. And I'm sure that a lot of people are like, but like, to me, in my position, why the fuck wouldn't I believe in that?
Yeah.
I might as well believe in something that's going to make me stronger and something that's going to, it's
like we have such a propensity to believe in stuff that willingly believe in stuff that makes us weaker. Why the fuck not just change the paradigm and believe in something that makes you powerful? It's equally as, it's equally as available.
I'm like, oh yeah, sounds good to me. Yeah, I read that, I'm like,
they have sex within me all the time.
Yeah. A placebo hack my way to where I want to be, and the power of the mind is infinite. I mean, there's studies where people will, get burned on their arm, and then they'll come back in, and the scientists will tell them like, okay, we're going to apply the burn now, and then they don't burn them, but there's still a welt that comes. Your body creates a welt thinking that it had just been burned. The power of your mind is fucking crazy. And so if you believe it, then you're actively attracting that reality. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, big believer in vibration and frequency and visualization. And if you visualize these things, you visualize the purification of your soul, of your body, you visualize the energy in your body and where you want it to go, and the energy being obedient to your commands. I just think that that's how you become supernatural, is controlling what you really want and believing in things that are going to make you stronger, even if you haven't, because you can prove anything through these studies that they're doing. They've proven that cigarettes are good for you. There's a famous study like that. You believe that, and I think that like the Tour de France guys back in the day that were smoking cigarettes because they thought that it made their lungs stronger definitely had less of a detrimental effect on their body than people that smoke cigs and think about how bad it is for them every single time they do it. It's like what we were talking about. You got to be resilient, and you got to be aware, and you got to placebo hack your way into health in this day and age, because if you are aware to a fault, you are aware that this meal has shit in it, this meal has seed oils in it. Well, someone who's obliviously eating seed oils his entire life, and then someone that isn't oblivious and is very aware and is stressing out about it each time he eats seed oils, I think the person that's aware is going to be the one to die first.
100%. There's ignorance is bliss, knowledge is power. So it's like, which one do you choose?
Yeah.
And if you have knowledge, I believe that if you have knowledge, you have the ability to choose from either. It's like you can choose. Like if I'm ignorant of the fact that seed oils are bad for you, or let's say porn, because I mean, I think most people, myself, I'll speak for myself. I always had like an inkling. I'm like, okay, porn's not. It's like this isn't good for me. Something's off.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until a handful of years ago where I became like keenly aware of like, okay, this is not good, which also speaks to the fact of like how powerful the draw is. But ignorance is bliss, knowledge is power. If you're ignorant of something, you're bliss. You don't know. Like you literally just, oh, cool, whatever. And I think that there is an element of like it's not that you believe that it won't affect you. It's like you don't know any better. So like this is how neuroticism happens, in my opinion. You become knowledgeable, so you try to control everything to the nth degree, and if it doesn't happen exactly as you intend or planned, then it becomes deleterious. Whereas you're exactly right. I spoke with Vance Elrod about this once. Like I'm with my boys, and we're ordering pizza. I could either A, not partake. I could B, eat the pizza and be like, fuck, dude. Or I could C, just like be with my boys, eat the pizza and literally convince myself this shit will actually help me. Like this moment right here is going to help me. And it sends back exactly to what we were just talking about. We can choose things that make us weak, or to believe in things that make us weak, or we can believe in things that make us strong. Why not choose the latter? The other quote that I'm reminded of right now is something along the lines of, I think it was a Stoic philosopher, said, freedom is not in satisfying desires, but in controlling them.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom is not in satisfying desires, but in controlling them. I think that is one of the truest statements I've ever heard. And you to tie it back to something that you just said about becoming supernatural and like believing in things that make us strong. I think for me, that's where God has, like in science, there's nothing that's supernatural, maybe like the laws of gravity, I guess, but like there's nothing like divine about science. There's no supernatural thing that you can like tap into. It's not like somebody can tap into the law of gravity. But for me, the way I perceive God and believe in God is that like that's God is like the eternal, the all, everything about God makes me stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So if I believe in God in that way and actively pursue that belief and actively act on that belief, then I will become stronger. Does that make sense? Am I articulating that well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if you believe in something greater than yourself, that has the propensity, I've been using that word.
It's a good word. I'll pause. Before this podcast, you said something about, I'm going to keep my vocab to like a 5th grade level. And I forgot the word already, but one of your first words was like, I need to look that up. I love it. I love it.
Well, I don't know the age of your viewers. Hopefully they're above 5th grade, but
I guarantee they're all above 5th grade.
Okay, good. I think that believing in something greater than yourself, particularly if you believe in God, it's like gaining a new lease on life. And if you believe in God and then you enact your mission and you embody your mission and you're doing all of the right things to the best of your ability, even though you're a deeply flawed individual, then you can come to the conclusion that I'm not supposed to die from seed oils. I'm not supposed to die from that. It is not going to be my destiny. My destiny is for something greater. And if you are constantly ascending and working to keep moving up the ladder, keep doing the right things and being and cultivating your own power to be, given the crown by God to be a king of his kingdom, a benevolent king of his kingdom, then you have this inner strength that you carry with you everywhere, and you have powerful gifts to exude and give out into the universe. And yeah, maybe I will die from seed oils. Maybe I will die from a car accident. Maybe I will die from passing out doing breath work in a river. But I refuse to believe that that's the way I'm going to go out. I'd rather go out from the jaws of a mountain lion or a bear or something more heroic than that, because I'm trying to cultivate, I am the hero of my story and the hero of my mission. And that can come off as narcissistic. But but it's holding that. And a lot of these types of esoteric things are paradoxical, where you have to hold these two paradigms at the same time, where it's like, I am the hero, I am the person that I care about most in life because I live in this body and in this head and these thoughts are mine and I have to live with it. So of course my attention is going to be fused to my ego day in, day out. But if I can unfuse that attention and ego and take a step back and hold the other side, which is just I am, and everything is sacred, and I am part of a system that is inexplicable and way bigger than me, and this is not, this is something that, it's not about me. I'm just a piece of this, and I can either David and Goliath the darkness and choose the side I want to be on, choose the type of person I want to be, or I can be, not diligent, not aware, and not open to new ideas, and succumb to the inevitable low frequency states that I will be placed in by all of these modern things, where fear and shame and guilt from porn, let's say, or just being in a place that is not conducive to health or getting in touch with your true nature, all of these things are going to subdue me. And to me, I view it as like I'm in a full state of acceptance and submission to God. Yes, I'm the hero. Yes, I'm trying to do, good things in the world and be a good person. But ultimately, I'm a servant, and I am submitting to God's plan for me. And this gives me the new lease on life, where I can walk with faith. I can discern the thoughts in my mind. Was that thought based on fear, or was it based on faith? And if it's based on fear, I can disregard it. If it's based on faith, then I have a clue in which direction to go.
Several things. Number one thing that I think about quite a bit, and I've mentioned it several times on the podcast, is the idea that I am nothing, I am everything. I am the drop in the ocean, I am the ocean. I am the main character, I'm in the stands.
Mortal and immortal.
Mortal, immortal. I am the hero, I am also the dragon. I am all of these things at once. You're exactly right. There is this polarity, and it's like the challenge that is life is walking. I mean, this is Jordan Peterson speaks about this, yin and yang, the line between the chaos and the order, the dark, the light, the evil, the good, the feminine, the masculine, walking that line. And this is why Jordan Peterson argues, and I would as well, like Jesus walked that line. And so the challenge of life is to walk that line between those two polarities, knowing that I am the enemy within myself. Like the enemy is within. So is the capability to conquer that enemy and to do good. There's dark within me, there's light. Like being able to walk between these polarities, being able to hold them both, understand them both, and move forward faithfully, I think is the challenge of life. On the note of resilience, one thing that I like, you mentioned cigarettes. I think this is like, it's so interesting. I actually wrote something about this today. But I'm fascinated by history in general, military history specifically. It just fascinates me. And there's stories of prisoners of war of all nationalities, but American prisoners of war spending several years in solitary confinement. Years in solitary confinement. No communication, no camaraderie, no company, no community, no good food, no fucking beef liver, no structured water, no sunlight. Years of this. They get through that. They live to be 95 and live incredibly abundant and potent and fulfilling lives. So then you take that a step back. Well, what got them through those years? Because it wasn't sustenance. Like this is where I believe like we do not live by bread alone. It wasn't sustenance that got them through that. Obviously there is like, you have to have enough to live, right? But that was what got them through those years of of literal turmoil, like the worst thing that can happen to a human being in many regards, in my opinion. What got them through that is their spirit, is their will, is God within them, in my opinion. God manifesting himself through them in those times. And then you think about, okay, they get out of that time. They still have that within them. And I think this is why so many of them, like Louis Zamperini, goes on to live these incredible lives. He wasn't in solitary confinement, but prisoner of war, incredibly tough life, or tough period of life, gets through that and then lives these like flourishing lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they got put to the point. Well, firstly, the people that survive those types of things are the people that are full of that spirit and that are faithful in that spirit. They get out of that and then they still have it within them. And then it manifests throughout the rest of their life.
They have it within them, but I also think that it's a choice. They choose that side of them over and over and over. They choose the light amongst the dark. And this is like Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning. Very, the same themes that you're touching on. And, I don't know the quote, but he talks about this exact thing. Are you going to, you have within you this infinite energy, willpower. You can tap into this source within you and you can overcome horrific demonic adversity. And I fully believe that, part of this is a choice. Part of this is like, yes, cultivate a good routine, cultivate energy, cultivate, right thinking, but also you have to choose everyone's climbing up a mountain and okay, let's say, yeah, you've got some really good food, you got good water, you are breathing well, you're fit, you're on a mission, you have cultivated the spirit and the focus, but you're carrying around a 50-pound backpack that is all your fucking baggage, all your trauma, your addictions, your vices, your low-level thinking patterns. And it's a matter of taking the fucking backpack off, choosing to take the backpack off. And it's not easy, but it's a choice. Like, these guys chose to live that life of abundance and chose to think in terms of abundance and not scarcity and not fear, and have faith that life can be better than what they went through. And then they are examples of that playing out in reality. And I think a lot of this starts in the mind, and there's you do fall to the level of your training, you fall to the level of your systems when shit hits the fan, but I think you can be resilient to falling to that level by cultivating the spirit and the energy and the behaviors that will keep you buoyant amongst the waves of life that are inevitable. So,
yeah, that's I completely agree. The one thing I want to touch on, kind of circle back a little bit, is like back to the porn thing. It's so pervasive in our life. Like you mentioned, it's softcore porn. Like literally on Instagram, people will probably watch clips of this on Instagram in between softcore porn. Like no shit. Like that's literally, dude.
Yep.
It's wild. It's so pervasive in our society. It's so normalized in so many ways. But I do believe that there's like men listening to this that know that they know that there's something out there that they're missing, and they know that porn is at the root of it, that they like that this is something that they need to dispel in their lives. What has worked for you in terms of doing away with that? Like in terms of separating yourself from the pull, or overcoming it rather, because I don't think you can ever separate yourself.
Well, I think first and foremost, a lot of men feel that there's something missing in their lives, and they're feeling like they don't have the energy or the motivation or the discipline, but they don't realize why. The first step is gaining the awareness of what's really going on when you're expelling your life force energy through porn. And most men have not gone more than No Nut November. if that.
Yeah, most people probably not even that.
So they don't even realize the extent of what they're missing out on. They really don't. And they'll struggle through No Nut November, and they'll edge, and they'll fucking watch porn still, but they won't ejaculate and all this stuff. And then they'll go back to their habits because they're like, that was shitty. I hated that. And yeah, it's going to be fucking painful. And at a certain point, like I've had clients where they get so low and it becomes so painful that a fire gets lit underneath their ass. And they're like, this is whatever this is. I don't understand it. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I know it's not it. I know I'm not operating to my potential. And I would say that it just takes, and I never got to like that low. I never got to, it was always, I've just been aware and I've understood performance and my energy to a great degree throughout my life that I did understand, like, this is taking power away from me. This is tainting my idea of women. And it was, for me, a choice that, and I'd had a sexual encounter with an amazing woman too, like prior, like I was like degen mode, whatever, not taking things so seriously. But then I realized that, I mean, I'm very competitive, but I know that most people don't have the willpower or the discipline to do this. So that gives me an edge. B,
no pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That was good. I would say that for a man that's trying to kick this habit, it's, you have to kick and scratch your way to a place where there's a positive feedback loop where you are reaping the benefits of it. And it's going to be painful and it's going to be shitty and you're going to have to accept that, but you're ultimately going to have to make a choice. And if you have the awareness and then you make the choice, how can you set up systems in place to make sure that you follow through with this choice and just set the fucking deadline? Be like, this is 3 months of this. I'm going to try this out. I'm going to give it a good swing of the bat. And I'm also going to, whenever I have urge or lust, or I find myself wanting to go online and look at this type of shit, I need to have a system in place that's going to allow me to take a step back and assess and make a decision that is not impulsive and not based in the reptilian monkey brain. It's your highest self versus your monkey brain here. That's what you're dealing with. And so far, if you're a man who's been addicted to porn since he was 16 years old, your monkey brain is ruining and running your fucking life. And it's a choice. Write it the fuck down. And when you relapse, if you relapse, I'd tell my clients, go and look into your eyes in the mirror for a minute and just look into your eyes and feel what it feels like and feel the shame and feel the guilt, feel the fear that you have a monster within you that you can't control, because that's the crux of this all, is people feel out of control. They feel disempowered. They feel that they don't have the strength to overcome it. When they do, and it's much more simple than most people make it out to be. It's as simple as making a choice and then conditioning yourself to follow through with that choice. So if you have the urge, I tell clients, like, you need to do 100 push-ups and then a cold shower. If you end up looking at the shit, then you need to have an extra punishment. I think that pain becomes then, you then associate porn or jacking off with pain, and it slowly will take you out of that cycle. Your body's intelligent. It's going to realize, like, not only am I losing all my power, scattering my consciousness, but then I got to do 100 fucking push-ups and a cold shower, and then I have to look into my soul for a minute. And that's shitty. Like, I feel shitty when I don't want to do that. And it needs to be this non-negotiable thing. Like, if you're going to go in and you're going to watch some porn, you need to then follow through on what you're doing next, which is 100 push-ups and something painful. It could be a rubber band around your wrist that you slap yourself with each time. Like, punish your monkey brain for overriding your highest self. It needs to be something that you can you need to be able to rely on your highest self and put these systems in place and guardrails for your monkey brain. Have the intention, have the choice, have a big reason why. Why are you doing it? And that's why my porn thread went fucking viral, is because most people are trying to kick porn because they're like, oh, my testosterone's a little worse. Oh, I don't have as much energy, or, this is something that's taking up time in my day. Those are all valid, but they're not a big enough why. If you actually conceptualize porn if you understand what's actually happening, is if you understand that watching porn is actually a very dark, insidious, collaborative venture with Satan, in the words of Jordan Peterson, then it becomes more serious. You're like, this is definitely not a part of my mission. This is definitely not a part of who I want to be or what I want to do. I know I'm actively leading myself down a nefarious and a dark path by doing this every time I do this. And it's a choice. I choose the light. I choose being able to be whole within myself. I choose to be able to see women in a pure way, not in a tainted monkey fucking way where I'm just like, in this mindset because I'm watching porn, because your sexual energy gets so revved up and your consciousness gets so scattered when you're doing this that you're not able to think clearly, you're not able to see clearly, you're not able to make decisions and be super conscientious of your own future. And that's what people are stuck in, this cycle of pleasure and pain.
It's like when people fast. I've heard people talk about like doing extended fasts where you realize how much you think about food. It's not until you separate, you're like, holy shit, I think about food all the time. It's the same type deal. Mm-hmm. And I think something that's worth mentioning for me, like just like fucking pretty much everybody that's going to listen to this. And somebody tweeted like on your thread, like, oh, look, this was that interaction. He's like, oh, look, another fucking health Twitter guy talking about porn to seem relatable. That's because every fucking guy, and the vast majority of guys in America, in the West, that have access to a phone, it's actually a thing that is a struggle. And that's not like, I don't think that makes like somebody fucking weak for talking about it. One thing that's been helpful for me is the idea that creating environments that make decisions for you. So, because like you said, like if you got a monk and then literally put a phone in his face, it would be fucking difficult. Mm-hmm. So like there's frameworks and stuff like using the screen time functionality on your phone where you can control like content that you can look up, have somebody else put a password in. There's different apps and things like this. And for a while, I actually struggled with this because I was like, you motherfucker, like you're telling me you can't even, like, you have to have somebody else put a password in your phone. Yep. But that was actually a battle within itself, which was interesting. Like upon reflecting on it, it's like, why was that a battle? Well, it's because like I feel like I should be able to do this, but in reality, it's such an insidious thing. Like you're talking about, it's the pull is real. So I don't think it's fucking weak to have frameworks and systems like you mentioned that make it where it's not like, if it's not, it's just like a drug addict. Like you would never put somebody who's recovering from a drug addiction in an environment where they're constantly surrounded by the drug. Mm-hmm. So that's something.
Yeah. No, it's an act of self-love. It's not an act of weakness. And people need to wrap their heads around. You have to admit, like, yeah, this is something that I don't have control over, and I need to put systems in place to control this. I need to make the conscious choice, and I need to put these systems in place. And this is what James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, for example, where you're architecting your environment. You're architecting, I'm going to put the book I want to read on my desk. So that every morning when I sit down on my desk, I'm going to read the book. I'm going to put the healthy food in front of the shitty food in my pantry, blah, 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 blah. You need to, like my clients have an app that just locks them out of their fucking apps. They're like, I always look at this stuff in the morning, and I can't control myself. I'm just on my phone, and I just fall into it, and then I'm there, and then I'm in it. I'm like, all right, well, now you're completely fucking locked out of your phone, A. Yeah. B, you're changing the algorithm. You're clicking not interested on these fucking women. You're unfollowing these people. You're curating your algorithm to give you stuff that feeds your soul, that makes you feel more powerful and strong and something that is inspiring versus something that's going to take away energy. All these things this is a parasite. It's a parasite on your energy to a degree that people don't realize. I think most men are operating 40 to 50% below their capacity because they're dumping their load every single day to pixels on the screen. And people don't like to hear that. People meet that right away with cope. And part of that is because it is normalized. All your peers do it. No one talks about it. None of the older people, your father, my father, fucking, he was like, I don't even
taboo.
know.
It's like it's
that no one wants to talk. Your parents don't want to talk about it. They're just like, I hope he's making the right decision. And I'm like, I guarantee you that my little brother is not doing his homework in the bathroom. And it's tough. It's everyone's dirty little secret, but you have to recognize like what you do behind closed doors is the type of shit that's gonna, fester.
Well, that's who you are. Like,
yeah,
I love this idea. I can't remember like who brought it up to me, but I guess true enlightenment is when you can, like, when you're actually operating in your true nature in every situation, regardless of external input. But the reality is, when you're in an external environment where there's people around, it's a social setting in any capacity, you are operating to some degree based on reputation, based on expectations, based on opinions, to some degree. What you do when you are by yourself is who you are, like to the truest degree. And so I think you're exactly right when you say that. And I also want to comment, I think, like the red pill, like fuck women, like I don't need women, blah, blah, blah. And you mentioned it's actually, I think you're very valid on the point where it's like, Matthew McConaughey talks about the more you need something to happen, the less likely it is to happen. So the less you need something to happen, the more likely it is to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's like, because you said like click not interested on these women and stuff. I think people can perceive that as like very like red pilled, like you know what I'm talking about? Like sort of that ideology. I think that's absolute horseshit because
I'm not interested.
Yeah. Like not interested in fucking seeing a naked girl on my screen so that I can actually fully love a woman in real life down the line. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think that's like because that's cope, I think. Feel like, oh, that's fucking red pill. Like that, what do you mean? You don't like women, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think that's absolute
It's like,
cope.
no, I love women.
And I want to be able to love them better. I want to be able to love a woman like fully and wholly and purely. So I don't want to fucking dilute my mind and my life with these like you said, these literally satanic collaborations. I don't want that.
And the more you release yourself from the outcomes, the quicker you arrive. To get back to your point, like the more you want something, the harder it is to achieve it because it will always be running away from you. You're not putting out into the world that you already have it, that you already have the wholesome, that you already are whole, that you already do love yourself, that you already are fulfilled, and that you have this flame of joy within you, that you already are in a place of acceptance and awareness. You have to be cultivating what you want. Like manifestation is just acting as if you already have what you want. And if you act as if you already have what you want, then that reality is going to crystallize even quicker versus chasing it.
There's a Russ lyric, Russ the artist?
Mm-hmm.
This is in the context of a material possession, but this lyric stuck with me. That ain't a Nissan, that's a McLaren. That's what I told myself. That's how I got it. I recognized the thoughts in my mind were directly connected to what's in my pocket.
Yep.
That's the first, and maybe that's the second time I've rapped on the podcast, but that's still, but that really means something. That's obviously, like I said, in the context of material possession, but that the same can be said for everything. Tom Brady talks about champions act like champions before they're champions. Mm-hmm. You don't just wake up one day and become a champion. You do the things that a champion does before you're a champion, and then you become a champion. It's the exact same way.
And that's why people feel this pit of despair and this vacuum of meaning and fulfillment and energy. They're like, why do I feel bad? Why do I not have the energy? Why am I not decisive? I can guarantee that if you're watching porn, it's a big contributor to the deterioration of your confidence and your inner strength. I can guarantee it. And it's just, I wish it was, I wish I could give people some formula. I wish I could give people some like 1, 2, 3 ABC system. It's not that. It's the choice, and you have to live it yourself. You have to go through it. You have to go through the first couple weeks where you're like, fuck, I'm really horny. Like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to make this? And I can say that, like, it makes it much more difficult if you are entertaining fantasies of women, if you are looking at softcore porn, if you're constantly thinking about this type of stuff. Whereas if you take all of that stimulus, all the stimuli out of the frame, and you suddenly make your mission the focal point, and you are cultivating the sexual energy, it's easy. It becomes frictionless. You become embedded, intertwined with your mission. It fuses to your being, and it's easy. It's no longer, no FAP is no longer a thing I'm doing. It's a thing I'm not doing because I'm doing this. I'm enacting my mission. I'm enacting my purpose every single day. That's the only thing that matters. That's what I'm doing. And then everything else becomes easy. If you just become focused on the one thing at one time with all of your being every single day, aware and just tunnel vision, blinders on, you don't see the bullshit on the side. I see women when I'm out driving around, I'm like, I don't even look at them. Yeah. I'll be like, wow, beautiful woman.
Cool.
Keep going. Yeah, like, great. I'm
not
on that. Yeah. I'm just not on that wavelength. I'm not. And that's the season of my life. Of course, I'll come back and, but it's gotten me to the point where it's like, I broke up with my last girlfriend, and part of why I broke up with her was because I felt the grass was greener and I wanted to explore and experience different women and begin to learn more about myself and more about the type of person that I want to be with. And my journey is unique to myself, so people may not resonate with this, but it's like I've been with a number of women, I've dated a number of women, I have a lot of information on what I care about. I have it all explicitly written down in my, 80-page compendium that I call the MAD formula. That's now my coaching program. But all these things are explicitly written out. The goals, the purpose, the mantra, the ethos, the value hierarchy, the principles, the way of thinking, and then this grand vision that is a CEO vision of my own life is broken down into smaller bits and pieces like a systems engineer would go through it. And it's like, okay, well, if this is the mission, then this is what my day looks like every single day. And of course, it's a little different. Like, I operate without a lot of rigidity. I do my routine in the morning, but then, like, shit happens. Car broke down, boss calls me, this, that, and the other thing. But I'm enacting my mission every single day, and I'm keeping it top of mind. I have sticky notes all over my fucking house. I've got protocols in case of, if something happens. Like, I have the systems in place, but once you reach the place where your plane is flying and you have enough speed, you don't fall to the levels of your system. You're just operating, and you're operating from a place of presence and awareness, and you're open to downloads from the quantum field, and you are just flying, and you don't need, you aren't carrying this baggage that is a porn addiction or alcoholism or any of those types of things that can drag you down. And so when you release the fucking backpack and you keep your eye on the fucking summit, walking becomes easy.
Totally agree. And you kind of just brought up mission several times, and that kind of that is a perfect segue into my last question for you. You heard me talk out there about what a Tyro is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a novice or beginner. Stems from the Latin word meaning young soldier. And to me, a Tyro is somebody we're all in an arena. Like, you're in an arena that is separate from mine. There might be some correlations, but kind of like we were saying, we're all the hero. Like, I'm in my own arena of my life. A Tyro is somebody that's in an arena. They're standing firm in the middle. They're picking up their sword and they're fucking running towards whatever's coming at them. So my question to you is, what is the arena that you're in running towards the middle of with your sword in your hand?
I mean, the meta, the purpose is to be a hero to my loved ones, the environment, and the less fortunate through positive inspiration and action to elevate collective consciousness. The medium and the vehicle by which I get there, I'm leaving up to God in many ways. However, the less fortunate, the environment, and my loved ones, everything that I do is aligned with those in the direction of those three. And so the company I'm working for right now is doing damage control in the oil and gas industry and has a bunch of patents and technologies that can make cars more efficient, aerospace, mining, engineering, defense. We're going to take over and be the new GE for the next 100 years. That's going to be, one side of the blade for me, conserving the environment, helping people come out of poverty as well, and we can get into that kind of stuff, and the transition of energy and decarbonization of our planet is a rabbit hole. But with the right technologies and the right approach to saving our climate, we also will be inevitably lifting people out of poverty and allowing for prosperity to flourish. That is one arena. The next arena is something like this, and then just the stuff I post on Base Prob, my coaching business, where I'm actively getting people moving in the direction of their own truth, and a big part of that is getting them into nature as well. So there's going to be hunting retreat 101 hunting retreats, basically.
I'm there.
He's so there. And there's going to be summiting mountains, those retreats. So doing these sort of like expeditions with people, getting them into nature, getting them out of their comfort zone, right on the edge for them. And then just putting out my message of the being based in your mission, being based on Mother Earth, being based in what you believe in, and being based in your own body, and taking the new age and the tried and tested modalities of healing that nature provides and bringing that into your body. So getting people into nature, getting people in their bodies, getting people with moving in daily life with their mission top of mind. And I think that in and of itself is raising collective consciousness. So those are my two arenas that I'm balancing right now. And it's been really fulfilling. It's been, I would say that like the opportunities that have fallen on my plate, the opportunity with this oil and gas renewable energy company, the opportunities that have fallen on my plate from the Base Raw thing, I really believe is a product of my effort. I feel that all effort is rewarded in life, and I have put a ton of effort into introspection, and this is all based on that sacred scroll of mine, which is I call it the Mad Formula, Mind Above Defeat, but now it's repackaged as the Polaris program. But it goes through all these exercises of, rewiring the subconscious mind with AI now, personality quizzes, writing out, a eulogy. What would you want people to talk about at your funeral? Your purpose, your mission, your mantra, your goals, your ethos, your value hierarchy, all these types of things. And then also breaking it down and actually doing the work and like writing out. I have like 8 dopamine detoxes that I've gone through in the scroll. I've got a vision board. I've got information on how to operate my physical vessel, and then also how do I break down this grand vision, this North Star, into these actionable steps every single day. So what am I going to be doing? And a lot of this is based on, well, what are the things that feed my soul, that give me energy and allow me to be my highest self and unlock a higher vibration so that I can give my gifts and operate in an efficient and seamless way in a place of acceptance, but also declaring what I want my reality to be. I think that knocking on wood is hella cucked, because you're like, I really want this to happen, but I'm going to knock on wood because I'm scared of the opposite reaction of that happening. If you want something, declare it to the universe, believe it, feel what it would feel like to have what you want, and just consistently do that. And I've been visualizing for 30 minutes every morning, and I just keep having opportunities fall in my lap. I have my days are filled with more energy. I feel that I am embodying the mission, and I have that vision top of mind every single day. And so I'm getting up in the morning, I'm doing 3 jump squats to failure. That feeds my soul. Like right out of bed, no water, no nothing. I get up and I do 3 to failure, where I'm like in agony. And then I will sit, and my body will be completely still. My mind will ramble for a bit, but then it calms down. And then I'm open to these downloads, these visions of what my future could be. I don't even come up with the vision in my mind. It's a very loose visualization process. So sit down, whatever happens, happens. But I'll have these visions of my wedding. I'll have these visions of business that I built that is super successful. I'll have visions of being with my family in a sacred place. And I just ride that vision for 30 minutes. I feel what it feels like, as if I'm really there. It becomes very visceral. And then the rest of the day, it's like I don't even need a calendar. I don't need a protocol. I don't need a routine. I don't need an NSDR session. I am full of life, and I'm full of energy and determination. And, willpower is an afterthought. It's just operating. I'm just operating every single day, and I'm making sure, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you got to push here. You got to push. I'm tired. Fuck. But at the end of every day, I hit the pillow and I'm like, phew. But I have no regrets. I didn't spend 30 minutes watching porn. I didn't eat a bunch of bullshit food. I didn't slack off and doom scroll for 2 hours. I did the things that I said I was going to do. I did the things that I needed to do today. And I was just low action threshold, got it done, hit the pillow, and I'm like excited for the next morning. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to wake up and eat breakfast.
Yeah.
Like I'm living this life that's just something that I never thought was possible. And that's because I lived a life of this routine, this regimen of skiing. And then I was pulled in all these directions. I was running a company, ski racing. I had a psycho girlfriend. I had school.
Shout out to her.
Shout out. And it got to the point, and then I was also like eating shitty, training so much that I was exhausted. And so, yeah, I was hitting the end of the day like exhausted, but I knew, I did watch porn today. I didn't need to drink 2 milkshakes. I doom scrolled for a little bit. I wasn't as productive as I was procrastinating all day. And I think that it's powerful to have lived that part of your life. It's powerful to have lived in a place where you're not your highest self, you're not living up to your potential, and you're not just expending yourself to the nth degree every single day. Because then when you begin to do it, even if you get 90% of the way there, 80% of the way there, you're like, I feel so much better and I'm fulfilled every day. And even though it's like, all right, I have to upload 40 fucking contacts into our CRM. Is this, my heroic mission? Like, actually, yeah. Actually, it is another stepping stone. I have to do this. So there's no arguing. There's no complaining. There's no procrastinating. It's like, get it done. It's on the plate, done. Someone texts me, respond. There's no procrastinating. It's just, what's the straight line to where I want to go? And not wanting it to happen right now, not being impatient about it, understanding this is the process. I'm trusting the process. I'm in this right now. This is the season of my life where I'm fucking celibate, blinders on, villain mode. I'm going hard and I'm loving it. And that's going to change one day, but I'm not impatient for it to change. I'm in the present moment, and I'm in an acceptance state where God may throw me, a tidal wave that's horrible. Like the other day after the run, I got a text from my mom or from my dad. He called me. He's like, have you heard from your little brother? I'm like, no. And he's been in Spain, and he ended up going missing for 72 hours in Spain. And the walls fucking come crashing in when your little brother is AWOL in a foreign country. Called the embassy. We had police looking for him. He missed his midterm, all this stuff. It was like very, very serious situation. He ended up getting arrested and put in jail because he took a video on top of a government building, and Spain is on high alert because of this conflict that's going on. Thank God. I mean, thank God that that's what happened, and that they didn't give him a phone call, unfortunately. But
I mean, I remember that though. Like we were planning on going to like cold plunge or something, and you were like, yeah, I kind of got something I got to deal with. And you're exactly right. It's like that would be an example of a tidal wave.
Yeah.
And I think when you're living in your mission, and for some reason the whole time you were just talking, this just came to my mind, living in the Spirit, by the Spirit, and with the Spirit. It sounds like that's what you're doing. That. It sounds like that's what you're...
The best thing to do that is one thing at one time with all of your being. You're not thinking about, am I going to be able to afford the Lamborghini in 10 years?
Because that's unfaithful.
Yeah.
Faith is acting...
It's fear.
Faith, 100%. Like, there's an idea that faith... I believe that faith and presence are synonyms. You cannot be present without being faithful. You cannot be faithful without being present, because for me to be truly present in the moment, like right now, I have no worry of the past, because if I'm worrying about the past, I'm not present. I have no concern for the future, because if I'm concerned with the future, then I'm not present. For me to be present, I have to be faithful that the past has brought me to where I need to be right now, and that the future will lead me to become whoever I'm meant to become. That's how I become. That's faithful and present. Like you cannot be one without the other. Yep. And it sounds like, to me, you're living in the Spirit, by the Spirit, and with the Spirit, and you're present, you're faithful, and more power to you, man. Like I seriously, I mean, we're pushing. I don't even know. Is it 3 hours? Yeah, we're about 3 hours into it, bro.
Oh, wow.
This is like my longest conversation by far. I can't
amazing.
Thank you enough for the insights, bro. This has been a phenomenal conversation.
No, well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I am really excited to see. It's only a matter of time before this podcast pops off, and you are going to be a beacon of inspiration and good deeds in the future. I know it. And so I appreciate you having me on, and I wish all the power and love to anyone listening, and understand that it's all within you, everything that you want. You don't have to grasp for something from the external. It's all there. It's all in the present moment. The present moment is your seat of personal power. So take that, ingrain it, and begin to embody it, and your life will turn around on every metric.
I 100% agree. Before we head out, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I am at Based Ethos on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to sign up for a free call, I have a link in my bio. I have a link to the coaching program. I'm about to be launching AI-driven subconscious reprogramming exercises, customized tracks, customized AI newsletters, and then my book as well is going to be coming out shortly. So those will all be standalone products that you'll be able to purchase if they so desire. So, I'm just trying to give the people the tools, the modern tools for modern problems.
Oh, yeah.
Modern problems require based solutions. So
that's a perfect motto. No longer anonymous, probably by the time this comes out.
Yep. I will have come out of the Anon closet with a face reveal. Please don't report me to the CIA or anything. But who knows? Maybe it's an inevitability.
Probably already know.
Yeah.
But, man, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
And with that, I hope you all enjoyed the conversation with Nick. As I said, that was a long one, 3 hours. I appreciate you. If you're listening to this, that means you soldiered through. And I can almost guarantee you learned some fascinating things if you did. I hope that's the case at least. Make sure to follow Nick on Instagram and Twitter, and check out his health, vitality, performance coaching program. I will link those in the show notes. It was an absolute honor to sit down with Nick. Until next time, stand firm.